All right, the time being 6 o'clock, go ahead and bring this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Lopes.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Swanson.
Here.
Kettering.
Here.
Clemens.
Here. Do any of the commissioners have a reason to abstain for a financial or non-financial conflict of interest?
No.
No.
No. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any corrections at this time? Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 5, approval of the minutes from the June 4th, 2019 commission meeting.
I think there was just one correction down there where Don had asked for the meeting to be changed to 4 o'clock versus our 6 o'clock regular meeting, and it says change it to 6 o'clock. If you want to look down, unless you already corrected that.
It says the next regular meeting will be Tuesday, June 18th at 6 p.m. Is that?
Yeah, I saw that too, Gary.
Did you? Yeah, it should be 4 o'clock, right?
Somewhere in there.
For the next
Yes, I-
meeting.
I'm not seeing it.
You didn't change it.
We didn't change it.
No. But in the
Don
in the
had asked for it to be
request,
changed
it
to
said
4.
to change it to 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as everybody understands.
Do you, well, I have to make the correction. And what that was in public comment, the commissioners,
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any corrections to the minutes at this time? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 6, public comment. You want to grab the sheet, please?
thank you.
Anyone care to make a public comment at this time? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda, item number 7, claims.
I had a couple of questions. On page 2, there was a bill for $2,400 for computer forensic solutions. I assume that was...
Yes.
Yep. We authorized that at the
Yes.
special meeting. What was the question I asked you on page 37 about that?
That, we send the state quarterly that amount for that legal,
Okay.
catastrophic legal expense.
That was my
And
question.
that appeared, that catastrophic legal expense appeared on page 9, 6188.
Yeah, that's what it, yeah.
What was that?
We just send that, is, for any legal, we have to send the state and then we'll get reimbursed.
Okay.
Any other questions on claims?
I assume that on page 25, planning and zoning professional service fees of 680525 is paid the
District.
planning district 3,
Correct.
right?
Thank you.
Any other questions on claims?
No.
Move approval of the claims.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, the auditor and the treasurer report. Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Pooled cash report.
You could just do that on one, it's one
All the
report.
same.
Yeah.
Okay, one report. All right, next item on, next one is the 5th of July.
And I'm just requesting, since the 4th of July is on Thursday, for any county employees wish to travel to have Friday the budget. The governor has given the state employees off, and
Like it's been stated before, a lot of our offices work directly with the state, and if the state isn't open, they're not able to fully do their job as well, so. I'd entertain a motion to give our county employees July 5th off.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, right-of-way for Catherine Hunoff. Mike, do we charge any fees for right-of-way applications?
Not for the right of way.
Has that always been the case? Have we ever charged fees, or?
As far as I know, that's the way it's always been. The only ones would be entrance application. There's a $75 fee. It's like working in the right of way, like utility
Sure.
companies and stuff, they do it all the time.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, entrance application for Dean Mormon. Entertain a motion. This may be the location of a seed corn dealership
Yeah, did you
in the
look at this,
future.
Mike?
Yep, it's 301 and 444. I have it, I went out and looked at it.
It's gonna be east of the stop sign far enough where it's not gonna be an issue for trucks in and out.
Right.
Okay. That'd be my.
I wanted him to place it, we have it paved up to the stop sign. I wanted him to place it where the asphalt is.
Okay. Is that enough room, do you think?
I've talked to the neighbors and, because I was questioning that too, and
I guess
he
my
said
only
with, if,
concern
as long
is
as
if, say a semi-trailer's turning in and there's somebody in the way and then they're hanging out blocking the whole road, or,
right,
that'd be my concern, I guess.
I don't know, we kind of discussed if, as long as it's within 100 foot back of the stop sign, it should be okay.
Okay. I guess the only other concern is I'd rather have them in and out on Wallstown. because
Right.
that road's gonna get chewed up pretty quick.
I think the main thing is they were talking about doing a loop back to Walshtown, was
Okay.
coming in the one direction and going out the other way, which would work out.
Okay.
There'll most likely still be some traffic going east, but even if we let them out on Walshtown, they're still gonna head east, you know?
I guess my concern is just turning on that resurfaced road.
Right, that was my concern too, that's why I want them to be on the asphalt that's there.
Okay, so they are on that.
Yes,
Okay, I
yes.
thought you said you pushed them back, okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
No, I told them the east end of the approach needs to be on
Okay,
with the asphalt.
all right, sounds good to me.
Move approval of the entrance application.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 8, Beacon Planning and Zoning Software. Is Mr. Ryan Smith here? Come on up, sir. Welcome.
Can I ask for a 30-second recess? Is that it?
Sure.
No two courthouses are exactly the same. Makes it fun.
Middle one up, the other two down. I think that's what we do, maybe it's the other way.
That's pretty dark.
That's very dark.
Like we usually do the middle one up and the other two down.
That's
better?
good right
That's,
there.
is that pretty good for everyone?
Can you guys in the audience see the presentation?
That's not the normal configuration.
Kids were playing with it.
See, you're backwards. You must have switched one.
Three-way switches.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
For the board, what I just handed you is on the right there. It's just a flyer that I usually hand out just for our permitting, just kind of some basic overview. And the left is the agreement that I believe was previously presented 2 weeks ago. So if you guys are ready, I'll go ahead and go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm with Schneider Geospatial. It does say Beacon, but Beacon is the name of one of our products, more specifically. And as our company has continued to grow with local government, something that have added is something called permitting or online permitting, and that's what I'm here to share with the board today. Before I start, I'm assuming, is the board familiar with Beacon, the Beacon website? Okay, great. So briefly about us, just kind of where we're located. We're currently in over 550 places in the United States. More specifically in South Dakota, we're in 20 counties. So we're well represented without the county. We've been working with Yankton County before I started.
Since 2012.
Okay, 2012, when I was still in high school. So, I'm just kidding. Okay, so a little bit about permitting. It's award-winning software. It's received awards around the country. And pretty much how it started was right here, this slide, which was a lot of our clients who had Beacon wanted to know what was happening was they were printing out a Beacon parcel report when they would go to fill out a permit. And what they were literally doing was taking it and just copying it over, like writing it word for word. And so we had clients that came to us and said, why can't you just automatically push that data into a permit type program to automate some of that process? Think about like your legal description, parcel ID, things that you might not know of just off the top of your head. Especially if you're a contractor, you don't know what some of that specific detail might be for that property. So the whole idea was that it speeds up the process of a permit that's being applied for. And also too, it's something that can be managed just like Beacon outside of the hours of 8 to 5. So if I'm working for a construction company, I don't have to leave the job site to come back into the office to fill out some information. I can now check the status of all of my permits on different projects, all in one spot. Here's some of the highlights of the product. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as I said. There's no software. It's all online. There's automated workflow management. What I like to point out on this is the online payment collection, and then also it's unlimited users for that. So from the county level. Because we find out is with a workflow with permitting, it's not just the planning and zoning person. At one point, the director of equalization needs to be notified of a new permit being applied for. So there's a lot of stages. The engineer, highway department, the board at some point or another might need to be notified of some of those. It just kind of depends on what that workflow might be. So these are the highlights. It integrates with your CAMA, which would be the software for the equalization office, the integration with Beacon, and then also too, just more specifically custom workflows for your county, for Yankton. If there's something that needs, so we do have some basic templates for a building permit, a variance permit, or conditional use, just depending on which county or state you're in, wherever they call it. But it allows for that flexibility. So it's one of those where we take your current workflow and we put it into our system versus some of the other ones out there. It's more the opposite of here's the workflow. Now you have to accommodate to our workflow that our program has made. We like to take the other approach of what is your current workflow, and let's see if we can kind of help clean up some of that workflow as well. So here's an example of also some of the evolution of it. So when you go on to Beacon, this is from an example in Marion County, Iowa. I point them out because they're the first ones to come up with this crazy idea to put an apply for permit button on there. Without doing anything else, they said permits tripled of people applying for them just by adding that button. Because when you go to apply for a permit, what they found out was a lot of people were going to the Beacon site first to research that property. So once a person clicks on that button, it'll give you a choice. As you can see those hyperlinks there, you would click on one of those hyperlinks. And then what it does is it takes you into the permit program. Yeah, I'll just stay by the mic. But anyways, okay, let's see how good my aim is here. Try not to get this guy. There we go. So anyway, so you see like the parcel ID number, section, township, and range, just all of that right there. Those little logos that are right there, that is just indicating that it's automatically pulling from the Beacon website. You notice there's timestamps on there. In the top left-hand corner, it gives a specific number. There's drop-downs. I'm a big fan personally of the drop-down menus because it's less opportunity for the person applying for it to make a key in there that might be a mistake. And also too, you see the text right there in the middle of the screen. That's all text that came directly from the county website. And there's a you can also put like hyperlinks in, like right there. See that zoning requirements? All that is just a hyperlink that goes back to the Yankton County planning and zoning page. The GIS integration, this is not survey grade, it's not supposed to be, but you're able to then draw that picture though of what you're trying to do on this project.
The applicant can draw that.
Yeah, okay, so I should, thanks for clarifying, Joe. So what, in this scenario here, you're able to pull up those mapping layers, and the person who is applying for the permit, what they're doing is they're using some basic drawing tools to kind of draw and get an idea, or give an idea to the person who is reviewing at the county what they're trying to do. It's not intended to be perfect, but it's just to kind of draw that picture of what the person's trying to do. And then also there in the top left-hand corner, you see the select file. So if there's any .dwg files, like CAD files, or just JPEGs, like photos that need to be attached to that project, you can upload those as well.
Can you set parameters on that? Like say we had, in the ag area, the setback 75 foot from the lot line. Could you put that on there? If somebody tried to draw it closer, that it wouldn't let them do it, or is that?
That's an excellent question. Right now, the answer is no. Other customers have been asking us for that, and we expect that to come out in a later version, either this year or the beginning of next year. It's kind of tricky because other clients have asked us for that, but what happens is we can't, I'm trying to think how to say this. You can still ignore the area where you're not supposed to build something and still officially apply. We can't stop them from applying. I don't know if that's worded correctly, but then that still gives you the right to still officially deny them. We can't completely stop them. So we're trying to work on something to where if you start to build within that area, it'll at least have a pop-up window that says, are you sure you want to build in this area before moving forward? So, good question. Email notifications. This is a program where you're not having to sit there and keep hitting the refresh button. Since each user or each county employee involved with the planning and zoning process can be involved, they would just receive an email that's sent to them of a new permit that might need to be reviewed. Also to the email in the background right here would just be an example of an email that I would receive if I applied for the permit at any time at day or night. And it's just more of a notification stating, yes, I did receive this. Also too, we have one person that is completely dedicated to the permitting product. Tracy, he's out of our Des Moines, Iowa office. And this is just an example here, just some of the emails that he's posted recently of just kind of the constant updates. So Yankton County would have direct communication with Tracy on any of those updates or anything that needs to be added. So to start out, how it would be is there would be a kickoff meeting with Tracy, and then working with him, he would kind of outline just kind of what the priorities are for Yankton County. I do know This is, and I've already okayed it with Tracy, this is something that I do, that as soon as Yankton County is ready to take action on this, that we would start right away. The agreement I have in front of you, or that you have in front of you, is dated for July 1st starting date. So as soon as if action is taken on this, we would start immediately. So that is it. Any questions? Yes, sir.
How long have you been in this business? And are you the parent company?
How long have I personally been in the business?
The company, how long has it been in business?
Over 50 years. It's still owned by the Schneider family.
Okay, so that's the parent company then, correct?
The parent company officially is the Schneider Corporation. It recently broke off into two segments of, so Schneider Corporation used to be GIS Engineering and Surveying, based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. At a certain point, we decided that surveying and engineering should be its own company and operate independently of the GIS. When I say GIS, I'm talking about the Beacon website, more of the web-based products.
Okay, what if 2 years down the road that they decide to sell this company off to somebody else, then what happens? Have to start over from square one, or?
That's a good question. I am 100% certain that we will not sell. Because like I said, unless you have the last name Schneider, you do not own one share of the company.
You'd put that in writing then?
I can get you the contact information of our CEO if you'd like.
That's not what I asked.
Okay.
I got a question. So somebody could actually apply for a building permit from their very own house on the internet. Could they actually go through the entire process to print it out, or is it just,
Yeah,
this
it's-
is my preliminary plan, and then it gets emailed to our zoning office, they look over it, or what happens after the individual submits this plan online?
So the way it's set up is that it goes through different stages. And the way you can have it, so like stage one can just be just filling out your information, like owner information or the construction company. And once you hit next and it goes to stage two, you can even have it internally where after stage one is clicked to stage two, an email is sent to someone in the planning and zoning department. The reason why it's adjusted that way is because what's happening is people would start the permitting process and then they might drop off when they get to maybe the payment screen, or they just get stuck on something and they just, or maybe they were just looking around, looking to maybe buy a house. So that allows then the county then to contact that person and say, hey, I noticed you started a permit, do you have any questions? 99% of the time, it's usually people just kind of either poking around or starting to ask questions. But the software enables you to go through the entire permit process, filling out the whole thing. And then you can also create and export like a PDF to where you can actually print the hard copy. And everything is time stamped, which I'm finding out, having a new kitchen myself a couple of years ago, the time is a very important part of it. So, with the calendar and, so as soon as that permit is, applied for, that the clock starts. So
So does the county offer this as a free service, or is there a charge every time that they use it?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, some of the workflows that are created are completely free to the citizens, but maybe if there's a building permit, is there usually a fee of some type?
Yes.
So the software enables you to pay for it if there is something. Sometimes it's just a complaint request.
It's basically pretty free then.
Yeah, to the citizen, yes. What they have to do at the moment is when they log on or when they go to the screen, they just use their email to create a username, which takes a couple seconds. It's just name and email, and then an email sent to just to confirm that it's a real email.
Is it, can you do other types of things too? Like I know we get complaints on, grass and all different.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then is there, this is saved, right, on a cloud-based system or?
Correct, and it's very important to know it is saved on our servers, and that's just for safety reasons. But at any time, if you ever want copies of it, you can extract all that data. We've had it used for dog licenses, where they just wanted everyone in the town to register their dog, and it just took a few seconds. Name, breed, age of the dog, and just kind of where you live. just so they would at least have almost a survey of where all the dogs are located, so.
I think to circle back to Gary's original question, if the
Mhm.
company were to be sold or bankrupt or whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of alluded to it, our data is stored on servers, and then we do have access to make periodic
Yes.
copies of that.
Gary, if that's what you're getting at, I
think.
apologize.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, let me be clear. The data is yours. If we sold next week, the data is yours. If we sell in 2 years, the data is yours. It's no different than the Beacon website. Beacon pulls that data from your server, so it's your data. There's always going to be incidents where something might change or leadership might change or they might want to go a different way, and we fully respect those decisions. And at the end of the day, it's your data. So
What I read here, you're going to charge the county $25,000 to install this program system.
The
And
tw-
it'll be $6,900 a year till what, 2023 each year? Is that
the
correct?
$6,900 a year is for the ongoing cost. Similar to, so it's maintaining the websites. Anytime there's updates, like as I showed here, that's all included as part of that cost. The 25 grand is Tracy leading the way, starting out with the kickoff meeting, and pretty much just getting all the people involved at the county that whoever needs to do what, and he's going to help build out those initial permits. The nice thing about this software is there's a lot of work up front with a permitting system is what we found out. And then more on the back end, year 2, year 3, it's more just kind of babysitting and tweaking. But it's just that initial, a lot of that work is done in the initial 3 to 4 months.
How many counties are using the permitting system, and are any in South Dakota using the permitting system yet?
We have 25 in the United States.
Okay.
And Yankton County would be the first for South Dakota. So you would be I think the term I use is trailblazer. And I mean that as a compliment because that allows you to, as Yankton found out with Beacon as well in South Dakota, when you're the first ones in, you get to influence kind of the direction of where the product's going to go specifically for South Dakota.
When you have counties implement this, do they, right now we have a paper system and going to the digital system.
Mhm.
Do they eliminate the paper system and have a computer in the hallway if somebody wants to come in a building permit? You only do it this way, or do they kind of go both ways?
There's a lot of answers to that. So I'll try to break that down. So the counties that are currently in a paper system only, what they usually do is we'll just stop and they'll say as of September 1st, everything has to be done through the permitting website. But with that being said, we understand that there's still going to be citizens that are going to want to come in and still fill out a permit, or they just don't know about the permitting program. And so what a lot have done is set up a computer or a kiosk per se, where the computer is just sitting right there, or someone at the desk just interviews the person. What is your address? 123 Main Street. And a lot of it is auto-filled, and you're just asking just a few questions. You're just interviewing them. What is your intent? Does this look okay? A lot of that dual screen where you have the screen facing out and you're looking at a monitor yourself. We have found the kiosk to be very popular with a lot of our clients, or kiosk, just like a computer that's set up. But, does that answer your question?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And this is completely interoperable with the Beacon that we have, and the Department of Equalization. Information can flow back and forth?
Yeah, immediately.
between those? Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
One thing that I thought was interesting in our first discussion, correct me if I'm wrong, but because we have the Beacon map overlays, we can pull in data from those. So for instance, like our R1, R2, R3 residential, there's different zoning requirements and building permit requirements. And so if someone puts their address in, it'll automatically notice that they're in this zone, and it'll pull in those requirements for the permit. So it eliminates kind of some mistakes that potentially could be made. And
So what Joe's getting at, a couple things is, so if you click on something like a specific zone, you said like zone R1, it'll automatically, you can set it up so it'll automatically require other certain items. Another thing we have is called stage skipping. Do you have driveway permits or no?
Yes.
We do.
Okay.
We got one right here.
Yep.
Okay, so we've seen it in other states of driveway permits, whether they need a 911 address sign, that usually might trigger something else. So if you don't need a 911 address sign, it'll kind of skip over that stage automatically.
I was going to ask you, do you have testimonials from your other customers that we could look at to see how they're going, how they like your program, or?
The only one I have in the presentation, I guess, would be this one immediately. If you, I can provide you with more testimonials if you'd like, Gary.
Like you got a couple hundred or something, or?
I could I guess I can't provide you some at this exact moment, but I could provide you some at a later date if you'd like.
Any other questions from the board?
No, Joe and I were the two commissioners who originally met, 3 weeks ago now, something like that.
I believe so, yes.
You know, and where I see it is being, we have electronic records. Right now, everything is paper. So if some citizen asks me, what is so-and-so doing here and there, and did they get the right permits and things, I have to know exactly what year it was approved, go to a filing cabinet, and look through a bunch of files. Whereas in this system, I could go out to Beacon and click on the parcel and see there's permits associated with this parcel. So that's one, would be just the record system that we have long-term. Two, the timing. The timing stamps are so important because we have had times where people say, I sent the permit in and so got it, but we don't have the permit application. So the timestamps, the accuracy, whereas we don't have double numbered permits, whereas we have two that are number 4, things like that. The accuracy of the address is pulled in, the specific northwest quarter of section 7, etc. Those are all pulled in, and it's convenient for people, especially contractors we talked about during our meeting, who they're working all day, they got to get to the government center by 4 or 5 o'clock to fill out a permit, whereas if they go home at night, they sit down, fill out my permit, and then it gets approved the next day, for example. We can sort the filing, and we know exactly when things expire according to our zoning ordinance. So, and it doesn't just save time in the planning office, it saves time in the equalization office as well, because when a house is done and completed, they have to enter that information into the proper tax codes and make sure we are getting things taxed properly when we should. So I just see so many benefits to this software. I know the cost is we are going to talk about the cost here shortly, but I'm certainly a proponent as I sit here today.
Any other questions from the board?
I'll just reiterate what Sherry said. You know, I was very skeptical going into this. You know, I still have my concerns with how flexible software is at times and this and that. It might not be the absolute perfect thing out there, but I do see this as a time saver and a cost saver to the county. And I also see it as just a service to the citizens. You know, like it's been mentioned before, people trying to get in during working hours is difficult, but more importantly, Yankton's a fairly large county, and if somebody's in the northeast corner and they have internet access, they can come in the evening and start this permitting process. They don't have to make 3 trips to town, you know, sit in line at a busy office or see that there's a note on the door.
Yeah, I kind of agree
So,
with you. You know, it's going to save the contractor a lot of money, like Sherry said, you know.
Yeah, I think it's going to
Then-
save the
then
county
the
dollars.
contractor should be willing to pay some kind of fee for it, so we don't have to get stuck with this $25,000 and $6,900 every year. I mean, you know, it's nice to give it to them free, but
We
right
could,
now,
that's
it's
something we
terrible
could look
place.
at, we could look at.
We certainly can discuss the fees. I mean, the building permit fees and whatnot will continue to collect. But the other thing I think that's important to keep in mind is, yeah, you know, there's an annual cost and an upfront cost, but I truly think it eliminates a position in the office. So, you know, assuming everything working as it should, I think we do have cost savings to justify it.
Don, did you have anything?
I'm glad Joe brought up that point, because I don't see it saving the county money unless it's in human resources.
Right, yep.
And I fully agree that it'd be very advantageous to the citizens as a service. Maybe not me, with technology not being.
Don, you can still come in and we can help you out.
Yeah.
I got a good wife. So, but yeah.
You know, one thing too, and I'm guilty of it, I'm sure just about everybody in this room that's come in for a permit is guilty of it. You come in for a permit for one thing or another and you ask how the kids are doing, or you know, you get off on a side tangent, and a half-hour permit it ends up being 2 or 3 hours potentially. And you might have people waiting in line, and that's, you know, I just think it's gonna overall benefit everybody involved in the process and save the county money, so.
Efficiency.
Did you guys want a motion on this, or what? What did you?
Well, I think we do need to talk about the price associated with it. And later on the agenda, we have, what number is it? Number 24, discussion on raising fees. So that kind of goes in with approving this system. And I don't want to jump ahead on the agenda for that. But I do think that's where we need to recover the cost of setting this up, is in increasing the fees. So, and the biggest one is the initial fee, and that's the setup, the training associated to make sure equalization is well aware of how to integrate the software. We don't have a permanent planning person right now, so that person will need to be trained when they come in. And we did have a discussion about would it be better to get the software set up before that person comes or after that person comes, and I just think we need to move on this. And then train that person when they get here, because they're going to have a lot to learn as it is anyway, if it's already set up, so.
Did you want a decision tonight, or?
Yes, I think, I would like a decision tonight.
What's our total cost, so that we know if we would decide we're gonna move forward with this, what is the cost?
So you want me to talk about the payment schedule that's listed here?
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna touch real quick, there's options on the setup too, and Sherry and I kind of steered us towards the $25,000 one. That is, you know, certainly up for discussion, but if I remember right, it's 10,000.
There was a 10, a 25, and a 50.
So the 10,000
Yeah.
is limited support during setup. 25 is, you know, I'm gonna call it a 50-50, equal parts and setup, and then there was a 50?
Yeah, I described the 50,000 as you put the feet up on the table and let us do all the work. So.
And so I certainly think we want to be involved in the process. It allows us to learn how to develop these programs, because we certainly are not going to get everything done right away. We're going to have to select kind of which permits take the most time in the office maybe, or whatever makes sense. And then we would have the capability to write our own programs going forward expand our permit selection online. And, you know, that brings you to the next point as far as the sooner we can get this approved, the better. Matt Archer in equalization is very familiar with the software, with Beacon anyway, and he has kind of volunteered himself to take this and run with it. But that being said, it's not open-ended. He has time available now, but does not say in 6 months, so.
So if we would move forward, it would be the 25,000 set up in addition to the 6,900 per year? Is that,
Yes.
that's what's, okay.
That would be my
Look
recommendation.
at payment schedule B,
Okay.
year one.
Okay.
And then the other 4 years are all 6,900.
Okay. Anybody from the audience want to make a comment on this? Now would be the time to do so. What's that? Did you want to speak? Come on up, Laura. Introduce yourself for the record.
Just a fan.
Good evening. I'm Lori Mackey. I'm the Director of Equalization. A few years ago, well, back in 2012, we got Beacon for our office to get our property card information out to the public that they could view 24/7 on the website. And traffic at our counter dropped off dramatically. We had 2 clerks, and we were going to need to be hiring another clerk had we not got Beacon to pull all the cards, make all the copies, write out the receipts for the dollar fee we charge per page. It truly did save us an entire person. And when you look at that upfront cost, you've got $25,000 startup, and that is a large number. But it's not quite so large when you look at it in terms of an employee. An employee, you're going to pay a salary of probably, I'm guessing, anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000 a year. The company has to do all the withholdings and stuff. They also have to pay out benefits. They have to spend time training, do the background check, all of that stuff, and then you're still on a paper system. So I think that you should strongly consider this in terms of saving yourself an employee and advancing the office to electronic records. That's been my experience in our office, and I think it was money well spent, and I think people do enjoy using Beacon. I get on the internet here and there, and I see little clips from Beacon over and over on different sites. So I know people are active in using it, and it's intuitive, it's an easy product to use. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Lori, that's a free service for them too?
In Yankton County, we chose to have a good portion of the data free to the public, and then there is a subscription version. We charge to people like the banks, the insurance companies, the realtors. They get more information that they use as a regular part of their business that the normal person probably doesn't even care about, like the book and page number of a particular sale. And they charge subscription for, or we charge subscriptions for that. And the subscriptions more than pay for what the Beacon costs us. It still makes us money. Even, after all these years and stuff, we're still making money. We maintain a set number of subscribers each year. A few drop off, a few come on, depending on what their needs are.
And how much do you charge those banks?
We charge everybody the same subscription. It's $125 for a quarter or $500 annually. And there's a one-time setup fee of $25.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Anybody else care to make a comment on this? Now would be the time to do so. Come on up, sir. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Bob Gleick from Yankton, and kind of like Don, I'm not real computer savvy on it, so I guess I'd like to say more on the programming. Let's follow the KISS rule. Keep it simple. I'll leave the stupid part out of it.
We agree. Thank you, sir. Anybody else care to make a comment? Now would be the time to do so. All right, back to the board. I think I would agree that this is something that has the potential to save the county money and provide a better service to our citizens, which really are our customers. So
I guess I'd like to add, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, but we have dollars budgeted to that department.
for the third person that which is, this would be a lot less than hiring that third person that we
It
were.
would come out of payroll part.
Right, it would, we couldn't take out payroll, but
Sure.
there's dollars allocated to that,
Budget.
that budget or that
That department.
department. So it wouldn't like we'd have to scramble or hit the general fund or discretionary or anything.
Is everyone comfortable with the 25,000 setup level? Or do we need to consider the 10,000? The 50,000 for me is off the table, but it was between 10 or 25,000.
Well, like you said, it sounds like a good deal. It's gonna save people money, it's gonna save them time and everything. It's just coming at a bad time with the flood, with the roads, with the bridges. I wish we could push this down the road a little bit, even if it was only 6 months, Maybe by in 6 months, we'll have a handle on some of the roads, some of the bridges. Instead of voting on it tonight and spending 25,000 and 6,900 every year, and after 2023, then what happens? Price stay the same or locked in, or?
To me, that's no different than our current Beacon agreement. We usually do 5-year.
Like
We
I said,
do.
it just seems like a bad time.
See, I actually think it's probably a good time, because we're looking at hiring brand-new people. We just had 3 interviews yesterday and a couple really good prospects. And if they come in and this is a new system, this is what they know, and they can go with it rather than them coming in and learning a paper system for 4 months and then switching, that would almost be almost worse, I would think.
We did talk about that, kind of chicken or the egg, and ideally, I would like to have somebody in the office at the starting about the same time we get this, and that would help in their orientation process and learning our ordinance and our, process and whatnot. They wouldn't have a ton of input into writing that program. And that's where Matt Archer would come in, but they would be able to sit there, and I think that would greatly help in the orientation side of things. And the other thing, I guess, I know money's tight right now, Gary, but the alternative is to hire somebody, train them, and then.
That's a lot more than $6,900 a year.
If we have dollars in 6 months, now we've got an employee that we've got, plus we're still with like this software or something beneficial, so.
And I know, looking through the zoning and planning records, it's a huge filing cabinet, and not everything is where it should be, and it is not easy to find particular documents, so I think this would be. Is there any way to put past permits into this system, like scan them in as a document?
We talked about just running dummy permits through.
Okay, is that you able to do that?
If it's paper, no. There's companies out there that specifically focus on going from paper to digital. But if it is in a digital format, most common would be like an Excel listing or Microsoft Access table. We do import that.
Well, I guess we have a motion on this.
I move to approve the professional services agreement from Schneider Geospatial for their permitting software.
Second.
I think the amounts that we will.
Okay.
And there is a 4,500, is that also included with, that's not included
So-
in 25,000?
How I'm going to, under payments for services, item B, payment schedule, year 1, $32,950. Year 2, 3, 4, and 5, $6,900. Is that okay? Okay.
Is that your second
Thank you,
motion?
Patty.
Yes.
That's your motion.
And
I have a
Don
mo-
has
I have a
seconded.
motion and a second for,
I second that, yeah.
motion and a second, further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Most,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Swenson,
No.
Healy,
Yes.
Clement.
Yes, motion pass. Next item on the agenda, item number 9, notary
you.
fees.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Will you turn the
Thank you,
lights
Brian.
back?
Would you like-
The lights back on?
Maybe, if I get a big one.
Sticky note there.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. I think Ryan will be asking you for your signatures on at least one copy of the agreement. Okay.
Do I need to officially ask?
Okay, good evening. The topic we're talking about here is whether we should charge for notary services. In the county building, we have one notary, that's Nancy Brockmoller in our office. She provides that notary service on a daily basis to a wide number of clients. And we've been doing it for free. I did visit with the sheriff's office and with Register of Deeds. Register of Deeds gets requests for notaries, but they don't have a notary in their office, so they typically would get sent across to our office to notarize probably things that need to be notarized for filing over at their office. Anyway, talked to Brian Hunoff and talked to Sheriff Lacus about whether they would be interested in charging for a fee for notary services. Brian Hunoff, of course, because they don't have a notary, did not express an opinion on doing that. Sheriff Hunoff, or Sheriff Lacus, excuse me, says that probably 95% or more of their business is notary business for documents as a part of their work, documents that are needed for the sheriff's office. Whereas our office, it's kind of the flip opposite. We get about 5% of business that's county business, and the rest of it is just the public coming in looking for a free notary. And so looking at the notary laws that are out there, it's just a simple law. 18-1-9 says fee chargeable by notary. A notary public may charge and receive a fee not to exceed $10 for each instrument notarized, except that no notary may charge a fee for notarizing a request for an absentee ballot. So Sheriff Hunoff wasn't interested in notarizing or charging for notary fees, whereas in our office we feel that we could charge a fee. If they're still willing to do that and get their signature notarized, we'd be making a few bucks for the county. And if not, we would probably be turning away business that wasn't part of county business to begin with. So visiting with Sherry and Joe on this, they suggested that I maybe get a draft resolution made up, and I had Robert Clemish draw this up, and I asked him to put in there that a notary public may charge the fee, just because I didn't want to tie Sheriff Lacus' hands on having to charge a fee if he wasn't interested. But since we've gotten direction from Joe and Sherry that our office could and would charge a fee for the notary services, and that would go into a fund that the treasurer would set up so that we could track and see how much money that would be bringing in. So I do have a draft resolution you got with your packet, if that so interests you.
Do you think you would charge the full amount of $10? Or-
That is entirely up to the commission, how much they would like us to charge. We will do what you ask us to.
What's your opinion? What would you like to charge?
You could go either way. You could charge a low fee and generate a lot of business, and we'd be collecting quite a bit of money. It keeps Nancy busy. They're looking for her even when she's out doing other work, or like today, she was gone out of the office with some other work with Matt for a couple hours, and I think we had 3 requests while she was gone. So today, I think we had a total of 5 or 6 requests total, and 1 was county business.
Is that typical?
That is typical.
Lori, what-
So you could charge a low fee, for generating a lot of business, or a higher fee to deter that type of activity.
What does it take to get a person authorized for?
I was going to look that up. It's 270 some, I think, for the fee, and that lasts for like 4 years, I believe. I'm sorry, I apologize for not having looked that up specifically. And then they do have to file that with the state, which is another fee. I'm guessing it's $80, but don't quote me on that. So there is cost involved.
And this would apply only to those who would like notary services that do not pertain to county business?
Correct.
Just to be clear.
Correct. And I feel that if you were to pass a resolution, that our office would put out a public service announcement saying basically just that we've been providing this for free and will now be charging for the service.
I stopped to mail a package today, and I asked them, because they said they did notary, and they charged $10. So that's not an unreasonable figure.
Rob, you don't see any issue with it? Anyone from the audience care to make a comment on this? Now would be the time. Go ahead. Introduce yourself for the record.
Brian McGinnis. Right, it is. There's a lot of documents that need to be notarized coming through the planning office or zoning office. This may increase my popularity, but I'd like to maybe have you all consider having a notary in each office. Because it's tough. Nancy, I mean, I had Bob Law was in my office to get a plat notarized, so we just took time. We eventually went to the bank. Every time we do any notification letters, we have to get that affidavit of mailing publication notarized. And that's my question as far as what define county business, if it's in support
Related
of.
to business in our county offices.
So those letters of private individuals to get notarized, is that going to be private business or
It's related to county work.
related to county work? So we count that. So that'd be my consider if we could have, I think we had one in the office up there, but
It's a good idea.
another one or two in the office if the county would cover the cost for them.
Before,
Yeah. I mean, if the county would cover the cost for them, that would certainly help and cover Nancy costs to
They do know,
continue.
Lori?
Right, we did
The county
Nancy's
doesn't.
cost just because the only reason she was getting notary was to service the clientele that we had coming in. Because we wouldn't have a notary at that point.
I guess I fully intend that the planning and zoning office has a notary when it's fully staffed.
And it's nice to have one the whole time because
So
people
then
come in
maybe
all the
you
time.
have an opinion on the fee then? Because I think we should have the same fee if we're gonna charge one.
I'd like to know what the area, intermediate area is charging, I guess, so we don't.
$10 at the post office.
I don't know what's
That's
what across the street's doing.
Yeah, I don't know.
First Dakota, what do they have? And
I couldn't,
I don't know what the fee would be. I know some people we see come through would have a hard time, because some are, and I know Dancy did one that would have been 6 or 7 seals.
Mhm.
That'd have been $70, $80 there, $60 to $80 on one document.
But that would have all been county business, correct?
I
Or
don't,
not necessarily?
I'm not sure on that one. It was something odd that just stopped in my office and I took them over there. But yeah, the county business, that would have been fine.
You would charge for each one?
She has to, each one's a different, she records each one differently. I think each time she presses that seal's a new, as I understand it.
Right.
That's correct.
Thank you. Anybody else care to make a comment? Welcome. State your name for the record, please.
Ross Denherter. Commissioners, everyone in my office is a notary. It's a service that my office provides free of charge because it's a frustrating inconvenience for folks to have a document notarized. The actual cost to become a notary is actually only $15. What the cost is the issue of if you go through the process of acquiring a bond, which is something you can do, there's a pretty hefty fee associated with that. However, the county can actually serve as the surety for its own employees to serve as notaries, and then you can avoid the bonding requirement, and then there's no additional cost. My recommendation is, rather than charging perhaps adopt a policy that says only things associated with county business or things that have to pass through the county commission should perhaps be notarized, or just make it less burdensome for the county officials by making a whole lot of staff notary publics. You know what I mean? It's not a hard process to go through. I think it's a nice convenience for the public to find an accessible location for a notary. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. Anybody else care to make a comment? All right, back to the board. I think it's important that we maintain some notaries in the building, and I think it's reasonable to charge a small fee. I don't know about $10, but I would be okay with $5 or something like that. But how does the board feel? Don, what do you think? You got an idea here, I know.
You're gonna write a receipt, might as well charge $10 and pay for the processing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, this has been discussed in the past. There's some more history. I think, if the auditor's office were to have a notary, they're going to be the first one to go to, or the treasurer or whoever. And I'm not saying everybody. I think we should get more in here, and I do understand it's a nice service to the citizens, but it does take. It's Lori's not here because it hasn't created a problem or a workflow issue, and for an employee 6-7 times a day to have to stop what they're doing just to go notarize something and then get back into the workflow of things. I've been in that situation and you don't get much done, so I would support a fee.
Said all the kids, that discussion where it takes, you want to be friendly and it takes time.
Right. So I think a fee, charging a fee is fair. And any official county business, or if you're in here for anything regarding the county, it's free of charge. And
Yep. Do you have anything, Sherry?
No, I agree with all of that. I think it's just deciding what the fee is.
Gary, did you have something?
City Attorney Ross, I like your idea. $50 to set somebody up and give it as a free service. But I guess what's ironic is we're going to spend $25,000 and $6,900 and give that as a free service too.
That's not going to be free.
Well, but everything that goes through to get a permit has a fee associated with it. Those permits all have fees associated, and later in the discussion.
Well, Gary, I should have moved it up, but I had on item number 24 where we're going to discuss raising those fees, and we could talk about it then, but it should have been closer, and that was my fault, but the thought is raising some of those fees to pay for that. So, but right now we're on notary fees. So I would entertain a motion.
I'd move approval to accept the resolution as read with a $10 fee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. I guess with me, I think $10 is reasonable, but we are a government organization, and I would think $5 may be a better price to start. We can always raise it up. We don't want to be so high that we deter people to go somewhere else either. I guess that is my concern with it. But if you guys, anybody else have further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Healy,
Yes.
Schloss,
Yes.
Swanson,
No.
Kettering,
Yes.
Flemish.
No. Motion pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item number 10, city budget. Welcome.
Honorable Chairman, members of the County Commission, I am Amy Leone. I'm the city manager also Yankton resident, 2212 Valley Road. Just to see if you all received this document from Patty. I won't hand it out again, but this is the most wonderful time of the year, what we call at the city, budget season. And so annually we come and make a request to you all for some of our facilities that we share in operation. So as you can see from that document, that we're making a request again for a number of entities, one being the center, Chan-Gurney Airport, the dispatch center, and the community library. And we have staff people here and some actual board members here if you have specific questions about the operations or would like an overview of any of those facilities. But as you can see, some of those numbers have bumped up slightly last year, reflecting from last year reflecting what we propose to be the operational cost. The senior center, for example, is something we split 50-50. The airport and the Yankton County Library are sort of set amounts, and then the dispatch center we talked about in former years the percentage, and there's a number of actually staff positions that you all help to fund as well, since we dispatch for not only for Yankton PD but also the sheriff's office, emergency management, fire, etc. So again, we have people here that are a lot smarter than I am about those areas. If you'd like to ask questions about the specifics of those budget requests, but the total amount that we're asking then from the county for 2020 is $235,699. Certainly, if you are inclined to want to talk about a different amount, we will happy to do that. I should note that the 2019 amount for dispatch does not include that $400,000 that some of you will remember we talked about as a commitment to the E911 from the E911 funds for the radio council upgrade project that we're working on with the county.
City Manager Leon, am I correct that the city budget is like 5 times larger than the county budget? Is that correct?
Well, I don't know exactly what the county budget is, but I
bet she can help you out.
in total.
It's for the total or for general,
Yeah.
about 14 million.
And yours is,
57 million.
it's quite a bit large, 4 times as big, 4.5.
Correct.
Why
So-
did the senior citizen center go, that was for the air conditioner repair, was that correct?
We have a couple of projects planned. We did have to do a repair of the air conditioner. Next year we have the HVAC planned, as well as some roof repair. Now, certainly, unless those things are needed, we won't do those things. But we also could get a surprise, which, like we did this year with the air conditioning.
I don't have any questions.
I guess I'd like to see this tabled for a while and move on down the road till we get a better handle on where we're at with the roads and the bridges again. If you could come back in a couple months or something and we can talk about it, see how we're doing. I know it's going to cause conflict with you, but
Sure. State law requires that I submit the budget to the City Commission no later than August 1st. So typically around June, we come and talk to the County Commission, and I know that nothing's solidified until this board acts, until the City Commission acts on their budget. So these are all plans, and typically the Commission likes to, discuss in their budget sessions, which I'm not sure where you are in your process.
And I have to advertise them out in August, so it has to be pretty well.
Okay.
if you cut your budget by 1%, how much would that be?
Well, we're not done with our budget for 2020, so I can't,
Just a ballpark figure. If you cut your budget by, you said it was 60 million or
roughly, I mean, it's just, I think it's 57 million this year.
1%, that's pretty easy. About 570,000, right?
I think one thing to note is that all of these things are shared resources between the county and the city. just to be clear, the city's not asking the county for any funding for city projects or, just city-owned entities that,
I guess I'm just making a comparison. I've got 100 acres and you've got 500 acres, and that's kind of the way it looks with the budgets, right? Just a general comparison.
Well, the city is part of the county.
I know.
And the way, but this is not speaking on behalf of the city commission, but speaking on, from my perspective, these are facilities that we're partnering on. And so, we kind of they're community projects and community facilities, and certainly we all do better by having, the dispatch center, of course, and the senior center and the library and the airport, and that's good for all of our economy and the collective whole. So, that's kind of the way I've looked at that.
I'm not trying to give you a bad time, I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, and it's all public money, it's not our money, it's the public's money, so.
It's always easy to spend somebody else's money.
Any other
Well,
questions from any of the commissioners?
So my understanding is this is just informational. We're not looking
Yeah.
to
I'm
act
not looking
tonight on
for
any
a
of this.
vote this
so-
evening. I know you guys have your
Exactly.
budget meetings.
On Thursday, yes.
So typically what happens is you guys discuss, and then Patty lets us know, and we're happy to come back and talk more detail when you're having your budget workshop, if that's valuable to you.
Thank you.
Going to be out Thursday.
Thank you.
We're going to have it. So. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item number 11, 911 console radio project. Mr. Dwayne Johnson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Clemish, members of the County Commission. Just here to update you a little bit on the radio project. The city has undertaken over the last couple of years a process to upgrade all of the radio equipment associated with the 911 dispatch center. That project has gone through the bidding process. We received 2 RFP proposals. We're in the process of negotiating with a chosen vendor. Hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have all of the costs finalized associated with that project. As a portion of it is placement of the antennas for the radio systems on the roof of the safety center. Initially, we evaluated continuing to keep the antennas on the crow's nest at the safety center location. We hired an architectural firm to review the facility, and they determined that structure was not adequate to support the loading from the antennas in addition to traditional snow load. We then looked at utilizing a freestanding tower in the adjacent parking lot. There are a tremendous number of utilities on the backside of that building, the generator, HVAC, jail entrances, sheriff's office entrance, along with all of the parking constraints. After evaluating a number of different locations, at the suggestion of the sheriff's office and jail officials, we went back and looked at the new jail mezzanine on the roof of the building, and that facility appeared to be overbuilt. We again retained a structural engineer to evaluate that facility, and they determined, and you have a copy of the study, I believe, in your information, that it would be adequate for supporting the antennas for that facility. So I'm here tonight to request permission from the County Commission to place the antenna structure on the jail mezzanine, in addition to roof penetration, placement of the equipment in the second floor mechanical room, and then the associated installation that goes along with that project.
Did they give you any guarantee that it'll work on top of the roof? Just
We've,
a suggestion.
Yeah, we've evaluated, we have a radio engineer that's looked at it. They've evaluated the height of the antennas, the potential conflict between the different frequencies, and they're more than satisfied with the adequacy of it. Obviously, it would have been, the ideal solution would have been to use a 100-foot tower. The physical constraints of the location made it difficult and costly. So we tried to go with a more cost-effective solution. Hopefully we can keep the overall project costs down below what our initial estimates were.
Does the city carry insurance, like say a tornado or a high wind takes it down? Is there any kind of coverage that?
We would just like any city facility, we would be responsible for our equipment and its placement on the roof.
So there's really no insurance policy on it then?
Not anything specific. We do carry property coverage. I don't know if this will meet our threshold for specific damage coverage to the equipment, but we would certainly have our general liability policy.
Any other commissioners have questions?
No.
Anybody from the public care to make a comment on this? Going once, going twice. Yeah, I spoke with the sheriff on this, and he's very much in support of this project. And it's a good location because, like you said, there is very little parking in that, and this is the best option. So.
And the only other thing in addition to the county's commission's consideration on approval of the request is if you have a preference for a roofing contractor that you would like the company to use for the roof penetration, if you have a specific preference. I don't know if you guys have an ongoing working relationship with any specific contractor for doing roof maintenance, or if you just want to have us use an approved.
Somebody local.
Bonded
Shop
company.
local.
I believe that Johnson Roofing was the initial contractor in construction. I'm not sure if they'd still be available or not, but that would be one option, so.
I imagine this would go out for bids.
No, it'll be under the bid limit. The whole project is radios, which is something specifically exempted by bid requirements. And so we'll look at competitive quotes and then go forward from there.
If we have any roof leaks or anything like that in the future, you guys are going to take care of that?
We'll
for
make
us?
sure that we can't guarantee anything beyond what we do, but, we'll certainly make a concerted effort. Anytime you look at doing a roof penetration, there's always concern about, increasing the likelihood of a leak, but most of the roofing contractors, are bonded or licensed to work on this type of membranes.
I would just as soon it not be on the roof, but I know in our discussion, we talked about this? Or was that in maybe one of the meetings I was in? I do know there were plenty of sites identified, and this ultimately was the best.
Yeah, I know that
So-
back parking lot pretty well now. I've been back there with paint cans and drawing lines, and we had utility folks come in and do locates. We hired a private contractor to come in and mark some of the county utilities and city utilities that aren't necessarily commercial ones, and it got very difficult, very, very tight constraints.
Well, I'm glad that, all options were exhausted, and if we're on the roof, that's where we need to be, so.
All right, so you need a motion to approve this?
Yes, please.
Entertain a motion.
I move approval of the request with the antennas on the roof.
I'll second.
As proposed.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Henry,
Yes.
Healy,
Yes.
Swenson,
No.
Los,
Yes.
Clemish.
Yes, motion pass.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Next item on the agenda, item number 12, CUP variance and permit expirations and extensions. Who wants to take this? Joe, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll give an overview. So this has been discussed at length, I suppose 3 times now in planning and zoning. It came to our attention, there was an applicant that came into the planning and zoning office and it stated that previous zoning administrator had issued them an extension on their CUP. And I guess that was the first anybody knew that there were extensions being granted. And Mr. McGinnis has been involved at length with other counties and how to handle them. Some counties specifically call out how extensions can be given. Our ordinance does not. And there was a case in Hanson County that was referenced. And so Mr. McGinnis brought it to the planning and zoning's attention for discussion. At the original discussion, we did not see any option for extending. Fast forward, week ago or 2 weeks ago at the commission meeting, it was brought up. So we went back to the planning and zoning, and I guess I'd like to make it clear what was asked at the planning and zoning was not whether we should or should not grant an extension. It was whether the ordinance as written provides that avenue. A lot of the discussion was, you know, we should due to weather, and you know, rightfully so. That's a valid argument. I didn't feel that the planning and zoning needed to weigh in on if we should or should not. That's our duties here. So ultimately, what was determined is our ordinance does not afford us the ability to grant extensions. That being said, if you read through that Hansen case, if I could find it, there's South Dakota Codified Law 1152.
11-252.
Okay, and now what I see in that and in that Hansen County case is that it would authorize the Board of Adjustment to operate outside of its zoning ordinance, if we so choose, and to grant an extension. And I certainly would be willing to move forward with that. But I do think the way it's written and the Hansen case kind of exemplifies it, or you know, it talks about it, is that we don't have the authority to just go out and extend anything. What needs to happen is that the permit in this case would need to expire, and the applicant or permit holder would need to appeal and come before the Board of Adjustment on a case-by-case scenario. And I certainly support that. I don't think we have any option of saying every permit from this time frame to this time frame gets 3 months because of weather. I just don't think we have that card to play.
We'd be setting a really dangerous precedence, wouldn't we?
Right. And I don't know that we would even have that authority, to be honest.
And the few instances where people say they got permit extensions, that was only word about. There was actually, at least I haven't seen any documents where somebody actually got an official extension by the zoning office. Has anybody else seen that? Because I know I haven't seen any.
I've not seen anything. There was an individual that stood up at that meeting, and he did say in the past he has gotten 2, I believe, extensions from our zoning office. And you know, he felt that was precedence, and we should move forward with extensions. I guess my thought is they got away with it. I guess I don't believe it was done in a legal matter, and I think the county would be opening themselves up for.
So, Rob, you've told us that it is not in the ordinance.
It's not in the ordinance, Don, but I do believe under the statute cited, it's something that the commission could consider, especially under these circumstances, the road closures that did occur. So I think the county's considering something coming forward and then entertaining it based on that being the basis. I do.
On a case-by-case basis?
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
I do believe the county can extend under that ordinance as reference to go outside and address this, you know, something like this where you're not even back in December or whatever period of time. There's no way we're gonna believe that the county commission's gonna be closing the roads to this extent and what occurred.
Right.
If the commission's gonna be doing that, then I feel comfortable. At least if we're gonna be doing that and looking at that and considering that, because I do believe you have that authority.
Are you talking on a case-by-case basis, or are you talking a blanket policy?
Can I read a couple things?
Well,
Okay.
Was that on a case-by-case basis or a blanket policy, would you
I
say?
would think if someone came in and then you entertained it, and then you basically are gonna handle everybody in the same situation similarly, and you didn't handle them both, if that
Okay.
makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
most of the people that have probably would come forward, the facts would be pretty similar.
Sure.
It's based on the closure of the roads and what occurred.
Okay. So for benefit of the audience and the public, South Dakota law 11-2-53, item number 2 says, essentially, the Board of Adjustment may authorize upon appeal in specific cases such variance from terms of the ordinance as will not be contrary to the public interest if, owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship, and so that the spirit of the ordinance is observed and substantial justice done. So that's only item number 2 of 3 in 11-253. And I read the lawsuit from Hanson County where they determined that the county had given an extension and it was unlawful. They said they couldn't do it. So in here, the judge had said that this law, 11-253-2, applies only where there has been an appeal to it from an administrative officer's decision. The record indicates no such appeal in this matter, and that was this court case. So essentially, they kept going back to the permit essentially never expired, and the zoning administrator had never said your permit is expired. At that point, the applicant should have come to the Board of Resolution to appeal and say, these are my specific circumstances. They also said in here there was no record identifying specific circumstances for the extension. So should an appeal come before this board in this situation, we could identify bomb cyclone in March, roads closed, but every one of them would have to come before this board. We can't just say, your question, we can't just say, well, these 10, go ahead, 3 months, you're good. You have to follow the process, or Yankton County will be in court, no different than Hanson County found itself.
And that's one thing I struggled with when this first got brought up is, okay, what would that process be? How do you, somebody has to petition somebody, and that's, I meant to talk with you over this past week to verify some of this, Rob, but in our past discussion, you know, we talked about, you know, how do we handle noticing and public comments and hearings of whatnot, because if there's a permit that's set to expire, according to the public, they think it's expired, and to me, that's almost a new hearing has to take place, and so that's what I was looking for, is what triggers this, and how do you set a timeline, and how do you do this? And so, you know, according to this, I interpret it the same way, that there needs to be an appeal to the Board of Resolution. So
Board of Adjustment.
Or Board of Adjustment, sorry.
Yep.
So my point is, it's pretty hard to go into business and do things knowing what's gonna happen in the next year. Everybody has extensions.
Right.
I sit on the GOED board, we do extensions every month.
And we talked, Don.
Just I want to finish.
Sorry.
Okay. In the banking business, we do extensions every month because unknowns come up.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to do is fix our ordinance to allow the extensions and the categories under which they could apply.
And I agree, that's what I was gonna say, is when this first was brought up at the planning and zoning, that was kind of the determination, is that,
And if we don't want, if we don't want any, then make very clear that there are none. You know,
right.
You know.
I think everyone agrees that this section 1725 needs a tune-up, and it needs to be more clear, and what that is, we haven't decided, but I think everybody agrees we need to. This is the exact reason we need to be working on our ordinance.
This doesn't apply just to CAFOs, it applies to.
Oh, yeah.
It applies to everybody.
If somebody out at Applied Engineering wants to put a big expansion on and hire a bunch of people.
Right.
bring them.
Well.
Applies to
Napa
building
Junction,
permits out by the
ethanol.
lake, all of that, everything. It applies to people building houses and
The ethanol
everything.
plant is
so.
aware of it, and so, yeah, it affects more. And one thing, I might have to look closer, but one thing that I picked up on in this case is, I believe we have that authority today to, extend the 2-year timeline at the when we were to, if we were to authorize a project, let's take Napa Junction. If we were to authorize that today and issue a CUP, if they came forward and said this is gonna be a 4-year project, as long as we specifically, make a motion to approve that 4-year time frame versus the 2-year, or if it's gonna take longer than 180 days to start, as long as we specifically address that during the issuance, I believe, according to how this reads, I believe we would have that authority too. But you'd have to know ahead of time. But we still do need to address this in the ordinance, I agree.
Rob, did you have anything you'd like to add, or?
I agree that's how they handle it, but what my point was, if somebody comes forward and then you guys agree to extend, and if other people come forward with the same or similar facts, then that's the procedure.
Okay.
You're setting a precedent.
But they each have to
Each have to come
appeal.
forward, but if we granted it under the similar facts, then we continue on.
Good.
Yep.
Let's open it up to public comment. Anybody in the audience care to make a public comment on this? Now would be the time to do so. Anybody? Going once, going twice. Back to the board, I guess, on this. I talked to some of the planning commissioners last night, and some of the planning commissioners that were originally on the zoning board when it was written, as they said, part of the reason for the expirations is that there was a concern in other counties where people were going and getting a lot of conditional use permits and then marketing that ground, saying, well, the conditional use permit is already, with no intention to build, but marketing in that way. So that is why it has the shorter time frame on that. And interestingly, this section, I think, has been changed in the past as well, has it not?
It was.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read how it did state? I've got that too.
I'll jump in quick while you find
Did
that.
2009 is when it was changed.
I think it's pretty common, the 180 days, 2 years, from my understanding.
In my area.
Yeah. But I do know there are counties that offer a path for extension. They still have the 180 and 2 years, but then they outline a path to extend. If our ordinance had that in it today, we could just make that decision. Actually, the zoning administrator could do it in the office. So, something to
Okay.
take note of.
So we really don't have any action to take. We've stated a position.
Should we, I guess the planning commission recommended by a vote of 6 to 2 to 1 abstain that, there is no, we don't have the ability to do CUP variance or permit extensions. And that was their recommendation to us. What would you recommend, Rob? Should we take a vote?
I don't think there's anything to do.
Okay.
I don't think there's any action you have to do.
Okay.
Wait for somebody to appeal and then bring it in front of you and then address.
Okay.
requests at that time.
So if somebody had a permit that was expired or is going to expire, the path forward would be to come forward to the board and request a
Request
extension.
under that statute.
Okay. Anything else from the board on that?
No.
Okay. Moving on.
So, yeah, let me understand. You said they either they have an extension that they want, but if it's passed, are we gonna listen to them?
Well, if
I guess one thing that we probably should clarify too is I don't know if it's simply, see, we don't have feedback, and that's what was changed in 2009. The zoning, it used to be the duty of the administrator to contact people, send them a letter, whatever, your permit is now expired. That's been removed from there. Now in this Hansen case, in this 11-253-2, how that reads is they're appealing an action by the zoning administrator. Is that how you read it?
Yep, they were appealing an action, but the Board of Adjustment never voted to either approve or deny.
But if there's no action, what I'm wondering, if there's no action by the zoning administrator to cancel a permit or to do anything, then what are they appealing?
Yep,
we
they
put
had,
in notice?
yes, there has to be the action. So I don't know if I guess if I was a person who had a CUP who was expiring in 5 days, I would say, crap. So I would go to the zoning administrator and say, this is expiring, and I want to, and there's no way I'm going to start construction in 5 days. So would you please cancel this for me so I have an administrative action, and then I can go to the Board of Adjustment and request an extension? Because if I know in 5 days I'm not going to have any construction, I guess I can wait 5 days for the administrator to cancel it. But I guess in my opinion, I'd be proactive and come in and say, you know, I know I'm
guess
not
what
going to make the deadline.
My point is we haven't canceled anything.
No, we haven't canceled anything. So right now, nobody out there can come directly to us. They have to go to the zoning administrator first. Does that make sense?
Expired
Because,
and canceled, maybe are two different words, I don't know.
you know, because the expired would be if I didn't start construction in a certain amount of time or finish.
Well, and that's how it read before the change, is when it expired, the administrator would cancel it.
Yes.
They would proactively cancel it. The way it reads today, we don't do anything.
Rob, what do you think is the best course of action for
Can they
that?
just appeal without the administrator taking action or not?
Is it what's it read in the thing, is it reference to cancel or reference expire?
Well, the judge had said, this,
In our shape, what is all?
in ours, oh gosh, yeah, just a second.
Says the building permit shall
Oh,
expire
Dan's
if
got
the work described in any building permit conditional use or variance has not begun within 180 days from the date of issuance. The building permit should also expire if the work described in any building permit conditional use or variance has not been completed within 2 years from the date of issuance. So according to section 1725 is 180 days it's expired automatically.
Without an
And
appeal?
Administrative decision.
So.
They should come forward and make the request.
So that'd be on the individual, then you would do that? Okay.
Okay.
But that's where I'm still having, because I think 11-253 is you can appeal an act by the zoning administrator specifically. See where I'm hung up?
Yeah, it says authorize upon appeal in specific cases such variances from terms of the ordinance as will not be contrary. Upon
Okay,
appeal.
okay.
So it doesn't say who you're appealing.
Administrator, okay.
You could appeal that it expired, I appeal.
So,
I'm okay with that.
That being gone, and Brian, I think you testified, or not testified, you said that no permits have been canceled at our last meeting.
Correct.
Right.
So, but several maybe came up to the time frame in the last 2 weeks or the next couple, 3 weeks. Do we want to, since this is a first time deal, do we want to say anything that was in this period of time when nobody knew about this process, will give them the right to appeal?
I think everybody
everybody
has the right to appeal.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to
Okay.
pick a time frame, or I think
Do you agree with that?
you always have the right to appeal.
Okay.
It should be on a case-by-case basis if.
Well, we'll
there may
hear
be
them.
some people there may be some people who don't want.
Because
they're
I'm just thinking,
fine with it too.
you know, if I'm out there and I've spent several $1,000s, whether it's a CAFO or a building an industrial site, I've spent several thousands or hundred thousands. Golly, it's kind of hard to walk in and say, I want to cancel this.
Yeah. Yep, I see your point, Don.
Cancel this.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what I was
And
curious.
then I'm going to appeal.
Yeah.
But the appeal guy said, well, we'll say, well,
Yeah.
gee whiz, you shouldn't.
They shouldn't have canceled it.
Cancel.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
got
I
you,
was
Don.
getting clarification if it has to be canceled or if it just simply expires, if they can appeal that. And it sounds like we could just
can.
accept an appeal
Yeah.
of a permit expiring. They don't have to cancel.
I think Sherry hit it right
Corrected.
on the head, because, like you said, if I knew my permit was gonna expire in 5 days, kind of like a driver's license, if it's gonna expire next month, I better do something, you know?
Yeah.
It's on me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You can-
Anybody else from the board have anything else? Rob, did you have anything you'd want to add?
Okay.
Anything else from the board? All right.
Sounds good.
We'll
Thank you,
go
Dan.
ahead, we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic. Next, what's that? Did you want to say something? Sorry, I didn't see. Did you have, go ahead, Brian.
So for guidance, assuming I'm going to land in the middle of this, or it's going to land on me. So we'll just notify them if it happens. Do you want me to look for them and say your permit's expired? The other old language also had a requirement that I notify them. In a sense of due process, I believe that should be the case, but that has been taken out of the ordinance. But I still believe that you should provide written notification to someone that your permit has expired. We're not canceling it or whatever language you want to use. I don't know what you want to do. There's also two things in question here right now, at least in the field. One is what actually is expiring. Is it a building permit or a conditional use or variance, whatever? There's sides arguing both sides on that. And the other term is actual construction, 3 terms, I'm sorry. And the next term is due diligence. So we have these who have started some construction, but have stopped due to groundwater levels and other things. So the appeal process is probably more than likely going to be, one, the expiration does count for conditional use. I think obviously it was interpreted as it did because extensions had been granted in the past for conditional uses expiring. 2, what's actual construction mean, and carrying on diligently. So the appeals, but so are we just letting them self-report to come to you? Am I expected to notify them who, because majority of these I think applied, I'm guessing in December, you know, 1 or 2 meetings, maybe November meetings, and are expiring the 11th of June, the 19th of June, or somewhere right in there, that period. So I just need to know for my direction what you'd asking me to do, considering I'm having very, very limited time to do it. If it's nothing, that's great too, but if you're expecting something, I need to know exactly how you want me to
Well, if we
pursue
do it
this.
for a conditional use permit, don't we have to also do it before the other 2 examples you gave?
Building permits, variances and such?
Yes.
Absolutely, and that's what I want,
There's a lot more than just what happened in November and December. There's potentially a lot of people that have got house building permits.
right, there's a spreadsheet that has kept all the building permits. So we'll look at those and see, and try to go through and catch up with those to see which ones are, you know, have they started construction, because it says it has to, well, it's completion, I can't remember the whole layout of it, but they're in there.
I think the question is, does Brian need to send a notification to people
I don't
on the
think
date?
so. We've never done that before, right?
And I would say no, or the way I see it is no. It was in the ordinance, it changed. Now, I agree it should be a courtesy of the county. And that's one thing, I'm gonna throw a plug in for the software again. But that is one thing that would be generated out of an email, 180 days out could be generated automatically, and 200 days out. So it's not on the zoning administrator. And I believe what happened when to make that change was you had a list of all of these things, and you get 2 years out, and you've got all these projects, and either the ball got dropped or just was whatever it was, but they didn't.
Well, here's what I want to suggest this to think about. Since we've had a lot of turmoil about conditional use permits and building permits, and maybe since right now we're in change, maybe we should a one-time notice the people in the last 6 months that fall in those categories with a letter, and that's it. Don't carry it on, but we're just gonna be courteous and say, oh, by the way, we're paying attention to this now. It's an important thing, and you better be wary of it.
Do you have a list, or do you have act?
You got building permits.
There's a spreadsheet of building permits issued and conditional use permits issued through, well, which would be in the cancellation that November. I can go back to October, I suppose, and look to see.
If we're gonna do that, we might as well go back to 2 years, because there's probably some that are coming up on the 2-year. I mean, bottom line, that nothing's changed in this order. It's been this way for a long time. Is, you know, if you would like to put something in the paper or something, I guess I could support that as a reminder, but I don't think we should be contacting individual people, you know.
Yeah, Brian, don't you
I
have
guess
enough
I
on your
don't
plate
think so.
besides keeping track of everybody and reminding them that their permit's expired?
I have plenty to do, but I also want to do things right and equitable and fair, and I also want to provide, you know, they have a chance to appeal a decision to the next level. So I want them to have something firm to be able to appeal, you know, and that's what I'm saying. If you're comfortable with an ad in the paper or a general letter to all persons that this is being looked at now, that's fine with me. I mean, Rob has a better, you know, input.
What do you think, Rob? Would a notice in the paper or something be?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Or maybe, and I'm not putting this on Brian too, if there was some issues where Brian has some issues, maybe you can direct notice to some individuals where Brian would have some concerns. But a notice in the paper would be fine.
Okay. Would that work for you? And then that's a compromise there, as opposed to, because I don't even know how many, because we'd send it, you know, to everybody, all the building permits, so. That work?
That'd be fine with me, and then,
Okay.
yeah, we just make sure we have a very clear and tight process from them coming to you, and
Okay.
is this just, you know, how do you see it playing out? So I can best explain it when I get the phone calls, or the messages more than likely, and return the phone calls, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, item number 13, Yankton County Risk Map. Mark? Welcome, sir.
Oh, sure. I'll just plug it back on.
Well, he's got it set up. You want to just do it now? All right, hey, at this time, we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break, everybody.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're back into regular session. Welcome, sir.
All right. Good evening, Yankton County Commission and members of the audience. My name is Mark Macy. I'm an engineer with the South Dakota Office of Emergency Management. And originally, I was just slated to give an update on the floodplain remapping project going on in Yankton County, as Yankton County is one of the 27 eastern counties in South Dakota getting remapped for their flood risk. But first off, I thought I'd give a presidential disaster declaration update. As all of you are aware, it's been a rather wet spring, couple bomb cyclones and all that. Fortunately, we put in a disaster declaration in late May 2019 that was signed by Governor Noem, and that was for $48 million. And thankfully, it was declared by the Trump administration on June 7th. And that disaster declaration number is 4440. And so it's for 58 counties and 3 reservations that qualified for public assistance. And an additional 12 counties, and Yankton County is included as one of these 12 counties, for individual assistance. Now, when individual assistance is declared, that is for, say, regular property owners, homeowners, had some wet basements, things of that nature. They don't have flood insurance that would normally cover those damages. You guys were declared an IA county, so those people can go in, fill out an application, and apply for some type of financial aid to kind of help cover some of these damages. It's not going to pay for everything like flood insurance would, but it will help them get on their feet, kind of clean up some of this process. So, as you know, the Yankton Disaster Recovery Center has been set up and that's located at the Yankton County Emergency Management Building over on Capitol Street. So FEMA is located in that building, Small Business Administration, and then there's numerous state agencies such as social services, human services, volunteer agencies on disasters, and things of that nature. So if you know anyone in the county, or actually in other surrounding counties like Charles, Mix, I mean, there's other counties around here, but if you know anyone in Yankton County that experienced damages, I really encourage them to come into the center and talk with the FEMA personnel that are on staff that can provide assistance to them. There's a slight timeline for this. It's 60 days after the event, or after the disaster was declared. And so that was on June 7th, so people have until August 6th to come in. It's encouraged that they go online first and fill out the application there, but they can also fill it out at the Disaster Recovery Center. But they have 60 days, so it's open until August 6th to be able to get an application and get some type of potential assistance. And we just ask that if anyone has questions, it's best maybe just to go down there and stop and talk one-on-one with the FEMA specialists that are there. Well, like I said, 58 counties had public assistance declared, and out of that 48 million, Yankton County had 21 million of that. So your county itself had about half the public assistance damages in the state of South Dakota. So I've heard a couple mentions that there's wet roads everywhere. The big thing that's coming up on the public assistance side, that FEMA is going to be about 3 to 6 individuals with FEMA. Our South Dakota OEM staff that handles specific, public assistance, project worksheets, things of that nature, are going to be coming to town and doing what's called an applicant briefing, and that's going to be at Fire Station 2, located on 23rd Street, on July 17th at 3 p.m. And so, County Commission, if you're available that afternoon, maybe that'd be a good place to stop down. But it's going to be like the main shop of how the whole project's going to work. Because with this disaster declaration, the federal government is now going to cover 75% of the infrastructure replacement costs, and then 25% is kind of a local state match. But they'll explain everything at this meeting. So all the towns, the cities, townships here in Yankton County and Yankton County personnel. This applicant briefing is coming up July 17th at 3 p.m. And I'm pretty sure that Paul is going to be kind of advertising that as well. But like I said, for those individual homeowners, property owners, business owners that have damage, come into the Disaster Recovery Center now, and you have till August 6th to get those applications in. That's 60 days after the disaster was declared on June 7th. And then for all the township, city Yankton, county guys and all that. The big meeting coming up is on July 17th, and that's at 3 p.m. And that's where we're going to talk about the whole process of doing the site inspections.
I just want to clarify something, Mark.
Okay.
The PA is not necessarily what we would consider an open meeting. It's for the applicants.
Yeah, just the township.
I just want to make sure that we're not. I mean, not that I don't want people to come, but it's for the applicants there. We don't need a whole 50,000 people standing there.
Yeah, probably not.
Dealing with that.
Okay, so, yeah, all right, thanks, Paul. So, coming up, and like I said, with South Dakota, with this event, we actually have 700 applicants. So the past few weeks, we have reviewed an enormous amount of paperwork. We come up with this number, 48 million. That's just not pulled out of a hat. Each site that has damage has to have some numbers, some calculations behind it. It was like this much, so much feet in gravel washout, so much in the road base that was damaged. A 40-foot long culvert was blown out that needs to be replaced. So it takes a little while to come up with all these numbers. Then that gets signed by the governor, got put in, and fortunately it was a declared disaster event. The state of South Dakota had an event last year. It was up in the Mobridge area, Walworth County, McPherson County, Edmonds, things of that nature. A dam blew out as Lake Hiddenwood Dam, but unfortunately it was a small enough event where it did not get declared, and our application got denied there. So fortunately for you, and like I said, you guys had about actually half of the total public assistance damages. It's a really good thing for your county that it got declared. And then right now, there's been some late storms in May, early June. We're doing some preliminary damage assessments, and we're probably going to be putting in another disaster declaration for a lot of similar counties, but for additional counties in the western part of the state. I'm putting in a disaster declaration request, and hopefully that gets declared as well. So before I move over to the FEMA risk map floodplain remapping project, does anyone with the county commission or anyone here in the room have any questions on the disaster declaration? Okay. All right, so the main point I came here is to let you know that the county is getting remapped for flood risk. And, you know, this is a FEMA state partnership, and it started back in 2016, and it's to provide, you know, just a comprehensive flood risk assessment to help communities become, you know, more resilient in natural disasters. And so I think everyone here in the room understands that there's flood risk. You guys experienced a great deal. Just in the 15-year period from 99 to 2014, South Dakota had about $368 million in disaster damages to public infrastructure. And then now, you know, we just increased that by 40 million and maybe even a little more this year. So we do get events here, you know, not quite as often as they do on the coastal states, but we do get some flooding events here in South Dakota. This is just a current summary of the remapping event. Back in 2016, they did some discovery, you know, some kickoff meetings just to let public officials and the community know that the project was getting started. A little later in 2016, we did some discovery meetings. We went with county officials, local community officials, tried to get any like culvert bridge database systems into you know, FEMA's hydraulic model, other information. Maybe there's been some individual studies, some flood risk studies that have been done by some private contractors. Gathered a whole bunch of information. 2017, released the initial round of maps. 2011, or no, later in 2017, we did a BLE training on how this data could be utilized. Then there was a webinar to do some in-depth study areas rather than just be approximate A-zone floodplains. They're going to be detailed study AE zones, and I'll show you a map of where those got outlined for Yankton County. And then this, in September of 2018, the revised map came out. So like I said, there's some areas of enhancement. Rather than just these approximate A-zone studies and just using the LiDAR data, enhanced areas actually had some field survey crews come out, do some cross sections, gather some additional field measurements to incorporate into the new hydraulic models. And so this next slide kind of shows the latest rounds of maps. The one on the left is the first edition of the map. That was kind of some of those you've seen. Dan, I know you have seen that one, and that one looked rather scary. The main blue area going down through the center, of course, is like the James River. But then those red areas were going to be potentially new 100-year floodplain designations or 1% annual chance flood zones. After that meeting, that center map, there's some red polygons. Those are some areas that got shown as, hey, we want a detailed study on this. We want some field crews to come out, get some surveys, get some additional measurements. Let's kind of refine these rather than just approximate A-zone floodplains. And so that figure on the right is the latest version. And Union County and Clay County have just gotten, they're a little farther along in the process. They have the next version that's going to be coming out pretty soon for you guys, and I'll outline that in the next slide, but that map got cleaned up even more and the floodplain sizes got reduced. So it's looking like it's going in the right direction.
Could you go back a second?
Yes.
That one on the right, do you have a bigger map of that, or will that be coming up later?
Actually, the next slide, I'm going to kind of outline that. Okay. So yeah, that's the current version that's out there, but FEMA is now working on another version. So the main thing is coming up in February 2020, FEMA and their mapping contractors are going to be setting up some meetings going down the whole James River Basin, but this will be where Yankton County is included. They're going to be coming to Yankton County, so they'll be reaching out with your group here and be providing their latest final kind of draft version of this map. And at that time, they're going to be looking for comments from, say, such as, you know, your guys' commission group or anyone. So February 2020, when they come to town, that is the map you want to look at. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, they'll have markers, maps, you can kind of circle that. When that meeting gets set up, Dan, I can definitely forward that calendar invite to you, so you can be a part of that. But yeah, they will have, like the mapping contractors, the engineers, the people that did the hydraulic model will be there. So if you have any questions on, say, precipitation numbers, hydraulic numbers that were used, any type of mapping related questions, that will be the time to ask that. So they call that the flood risk review meeting, but that's where they wouldn't really kind of want to get some last minute comments before it gets to the next step, which is in November 2020, and that's when the maps will go preliminary. And so there'll be a presentation to county government officials at that time. There will be a public open house, and then following that, there will be an official 90-day kind of comment and appeal period on those maps. And so, so in February 2020, we'll be coming to town. I'll be coming to town myself. That's the version you really want to kind of take a look at, provide some comments, and then FEMA can take those comments into consideration before they produce, I guess, what's considered the final draft, but it's called preliminary. And then there'll be official 90-day period following that public open house to where someone can submit like really technical comments. And then depending if comments, appeals are received, that might kind of slow things down. But eventually it will get to the point where there's a letter of final determination, and then from there you have 6 months to adopt those new maps that have been developed. The easy thing is for Yankton County and all the communities in Yankton County, you're currently mapped, so you have a map in place, and you already have an ordinance in place. So it'll be simple. All you have to do is go into the ordinance and change the reference date from the maps. And most in Yankton County are from 2010. And so these maps will probably be coming out in early 2021 by the time you get through that 90-day appeal review comment period, and there's a few things. So yeah, it's looking about, early 2021 is when the new flood maps will go into effect.
Based on those maps you have, it looks like we can expect, more areas to be added to the flood zone?
Potentially. And when they come out in November, there will be a ArcGIS online, kind of like before and after website. AECOM is FEMA's flood mapping contractors, where you can type in your address and it'll show what's increased floodplain, what has decreased, what has stayed the same.
But those maps you showed earlier, that's kind of what you're working with right now? Going back to this, the one on the right is the one we're working with. But like I said, the one on the left was the first one that they came out with, and the one on the far right is the current draft status. From what we've seen from the Union and Clay County projects, things have gotten toned back even a little more, so the floodplain hasn't gotten as large. But you still could potentially see some floodplain increases. And it's not to say you can't build in the floodplain, because none of this is new regulatory floodway. It's just if you build in some of those blue areas, that's a 1% annual chance flood, or in old terminology, the 100-year floodplain. You just have to build to a certain elevation. And with us, planning the growth of the community, that's pretty valuable to know if we're getting, buildings in that area, and they're gonna be in a new floodplain. That'd probably be nice for everybody to know as soon as we can.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
You'd hate to have somebody build something and then the next year they're in a floodplain.
Fortunately, there's some newly mapped procedures, so if you get thrown into a floodplain at this later date in 2021, there's some grandfathering that comes into effect and all that. But yeah, that is a very good concern. If you're in an approximate A zone, or what's a 1% annual chance flood, they want to get rid of the 100-year floodplain terminology, because I think we all know it can happen, sequentially, or you can get a 100-year flood a couple times in 1 year. So they call it a 1% annual chance flood. There's 1 in 100 chance of that flood happening every given year. But yeah, there is mandatory insurance. If you're in an A-zone floodplain, or the 100-year floodplain, and if you have a federally backed mortgage, you'll have to show proof of insurance. Or there's methods to get removed from the floodplain as well. A letter of map amendment, it's called a LOMA application, where you get your house surveyed, and if it's above the base flood elevation, then you can get removed. And I know a lot of people in Yankton have done that. But that is status there. So yeah, let's up a couple examples. We have some counties that are getting remapped that don't have any floodplains right now. Yankton County is already paneled out, but this is Turner County. As you can see, not every panel, and that county's a little farther ahead of you in the process. They're going to have their preliminary mapping meeting here in September. But as you can see, not every part of Turner County is going to get a flood map panel. You can see it, I think it, kind of follows along the Vermilion River, but there's some large chunks, pretty much, in the southwest portion of the county that won't be mapped at all. And then, so, yeah, like I said, what to become when these maps do become effective. The old paper copies will now become digital flood insurance rate map panels. There'll be GIS, digital data, really valuable flood insurance study information. There's going to be depth grids, velocity grids, so you'll know the depth of potential flood waters, also the speed of those flood waters. And flood insurance is more accurately reflect the true risk of those areas. This is just a sample of like the map on the left is the old style with just kind of, the blob floodplains, and the one on the right is the more detailed, newer floodplain map, where blue's 100-year floodplain, the orange areas are 500-year floodplain or 0.2% chance annual flood, and the red cross hatched areas is regulatory floodway. Just some links to the FEMA Map Service Center where you can get flood insurance rate map panels, the effective ones currently for the county. You guys are already in the program, and that little column list on the right side, so all of the communities are participating. So that means anyone in Yankton County, City of Yankton, wherever, if they feel that they have a risk, they're able to get a flood insurance policy. We have some communities here in South Dakota that aren't participating, and this spring some people want to get a flood insurance policy. Well, they had to look to the private sector, and being that it's just such a wet spring, private sector wasn't taking any more policies. So fortunately, NFIP never has like these cutoffs, like, well, we have so many claims coming in, we're not gonna, insure people. If people feel that they have risk, need, every community in Yankton County participates, so you can get a flood insurance policy if you so wish. I talked a little bit about the letter of final determination. Like I said, you guys all have everywhere in the county has an ordinance in place. The county, City of Yankton, gave all that. So the only thing you would need to change is the reference map date. How to join, everyone's already joined, don't need to cover this slide. Like I said, newly mapped into a high-risk area. Like if you weren't in the approximate A zone before, and would be thrown in, there is, the mandatory purchase if you have a fairly backed mortgage, but, there are grandfathered rates. So if you built in compliance to the old regulations, the old maps, you'll be fine in the new ones. Some points of contact, and made the last slides kind of quick, but I see you guys have an extremely packed agenda.
Yep.
With that, do you have any more questions? But like I said, we'll be coming in February, and that's a real crucial meeting, a good meeting. We wish the more people, the better. Public City. So with that,
Any questions from the board?
No, you did a good job.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thank you, and best of luck in the recovery efforts from the spring, and we'll be in town. So okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to go into the, a drainage board of resolution? Or just, is that what we want to call that, Patty? The drainage board of resolution? Or-
We'll start there.
Okay. So I have a motion to go into the drainage board of resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're now in the drainage board of resolution.
Rob, did you want to start discussing the Board of Resolution and its limited review?
Yeah, listen, there specifically, if it was in a drainage permit, and then I think that happened before 1991. So I think the time is in there. I did talk to the Bartles, and the issue is a little different than I was thinking it was. The question would be whether the individual, when they violated the zoning ordinance, that exemption, that they got a drainage permit. And then that needs to go to the zoning administrator, who is to do an investigation to determine whether there's been a violation and proceed on the ordinance. That's what happens. And then it ends up, honestly, would end up coming to me. You're going to need this work would come, and we would bring an action for violation. That's what happens if it doesn't get resolved on its own.
Okay, so was that clear to everyone, or do you want a little more explanation on why the Board of Resolution should not hear this complaint?
I'm good, I guess. Anybody? If
Joe,
you want to
you're
read,
good?
go. If
Yeah,
you want
I
to read it, go.
Well, I'll just revisit. I think we did it last as well. Section 5.01 is jurisdiction on drainage disputes, and it limits the Board of Resolution to either a drainage or impediment to drainage performed prior to September 10th, 1991. That does not apply. The second is new information or evidence exists which was not available for consideration by the Drainage Board when the permit for the specified drainage project was issued. So since this is a case where a permit has never been issued, and number one obviously doesn't apply, the Board of Resolution cannot hear this. So I don't know if we want to close being in Board of Resolution and go into Drainage Board and then discuss the areas where it states a permit should have been required, or if we just want to leave this with our zoning administrator to follow that procedure.
I think he's going to be.
What would you
speak
recommend?
for you, but you'll be more comfortable getting a direction.
Direction.
from us, I'm assuming.
You're looking for direction. So I would suggest that we close as Board of Resolution and then reconvene as Board of Drainage Board, sorry.
Is that what you think we should?
I think it's okay. I
Okay.
think why I'm saying it's probably okay, because there's probably been a little bit of information that's come from the dark holes. And then for Brian to investigate, probably some guidance would occur. But he's still gonna have to investigate and figure out what to do and then follow the ordinance.
Yep.
If he still believes it needs to happen.
Okay. So you want to go out of Drainage Board of Resolution?
Yep,
into
I
Drainage
move
Board?
to leave the Board of Resolution and go into Drainage
Gotta
Board.
go to
Regular
Yeah,
session.
regular session first.
Oh,
and then-
we can't just
and then
switch
one
back?
more.
Well, I will restate my motion. I move to go out of the Board of Resolution back into regular session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're now into regular session. I'd entertain a motion to go into the Drainage Board.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are now in the Drainage Board.
Okay, so let's begin with permits required. It is section 3.01 of our drainage ordinance. So a drainage permit shall be required prior to commencing the excavation for or the construction, installation, or modification of a drainage project, including but not limited to the following. There are 6 items listed. Number 2, I feel, is applicable. Any draining, filling, diverting in whole or in part of a pond, wetland, or lake, or filling of a drain. So what is a drain? We go back to our definition of a drain. A means of draining either surface or subsurface water through a system of ditches, pipes, or tiles, natural, man-made, or natural with man-made improvements. So a drain includes a natural waterway. So when you go back to number 2, filling of a drain requires a permit under our drainage ordinance. And in this case, it is alleged that one party put a berm through the natural drainage waterway to back water up on another party's property.
I'll say that I visited the site, and it certainly appears to be a natural waterway. The slope is there, you can see the flow of the water where it should be, and there's certainly a man-made berm along the length of it, so in my opinion, the person moving the dirt should have come forward for a permit to do any of that work prior to.
I visited the site too, and I agree exactly. We looked to the west and then followed on out to the east, and probably not applicable to the berm, but he talked about busting a hole through it to allow water through. Well, that hole is about that wide and about 8 inches high.
Yeah.
So it was not letting much water through.
Okay. Any questions on that? I guess it's my opinion that I feel there has been a violation of our ordinances, and we need to follow up with encouraging the gentleman to find a resolution to make this whole again.
I will say, and I'm not at all making any proposal right now. If I know what I'm looking for, but I believe there's a potential of $1,000 per day that this violation has been in existence, that we would have.
Page 17.
17.
Bottom.
Okay, any person performing drainage activities without a permit as required under section 301 and 302 shall pay an inspection fee of $500 in addition to the permit fee. These fees are in addition to the remedies set forth in other sections of this ordinance and may be assessed and collected in the same manner as set forth in section 406.
And then down below is
And
the
then
violation.
Violation is any person draining water without a permit is guilty of class 1 misdemeanor and may be subject, in addition to any criminal penalty, a civil penalty not to exceed $1,000 per day of violation. It goes on, any person violating any other provisions of this ordinance is guilty of a class 2 misdemeanor and shall be punished pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 718A2. Each and every day the violation continues may constitute a separate offense. It goes on again, $1,000 punishable by a maximum $1,000 fine, 30 days in jail, or both. And you know, I think the conversations I've had with the parties that brought this forward, they're not wishing to pursue this at this time. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that's what I gathered. I'm not saying we go down this path, but I think we certainly need to either determine if they are or not in violation of this ordinance and move forward to get this cleaned up.
Should I ask for public comment on this? Anybody from the audience care to speak on this topic? Now would be the time to do so. Anybody? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public comment, bring it back to the board. So how should we proceed with this, Rob?
I would recommend that Brian provide notice regarding the alleged violation, and then pursuant to the ordinance, he does, or she, he has the ability to come back in and then be heard and have a hearing in front of the board to provide the notice and say what was addressed today, and say that there's concern that there's been a violation, and then he would have the ability to come back and make a request, and then be heard, put on evidence.
Yep.
Got all that, Brian?
Clear? Clear.
Do I, or negotiate a resolution?
Negotiating is always encouraged, but I think officially we do need to send the notice, so there is.
We'll send a notice, that's not a problem, but
Paper
if
trail.
I can head off, bring it back to you all.
Yeah, I would
If
like
you
to
can
see
resolve it
as-
without doing that,
That's, if he can resolve it between both parties, is that
That's
fine?
highly
And
encouraged.
also you have the particles who are wanting to go that direction.
Okay.
Actually,
Yes.
they just want some intervention, assistance to
Yes.
address this issue.
Yep. I would be fine if you can reach a compromise agreeable to both parties.
Absolutely.
I understand it, water off the field, water away, Commsion Randy's ponds, and I've already talked to him, and I think we may have some options to look at.
Sure. Okay.
I'd like
Good.
to say too, if the party who moved the dirt feels that it's necessary or justified, they need to come forward with a permit after this gets resolved. But to me, they're in clear violation of the ordinance.
I do have one question, and you were out there, Don, and a couple of you were out there. I have been on site. Is this the original berm?
There's a second berm to the west of the original berm.
Okay.
Much
We're just
smaller.
talking about the new one.
The new one, created by an excavator back in February when we ground this road, so it's just,
That's
it's all 3 feet maybe.
And that's the concern.
Stops the
It's
water.
concerned.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the second
Okay.
berm. Technically, I believe that first berm is in violation as well, but I don't believe it's causing any
I'm not sure
any
what
issues.
was done in relation to when
Right.
this ordinance was written, so that's my concern.
Right.
The west one was certainly in violation, so
Yeah.
we'll go on that one.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't need a motion on that?
No.
Then,
I'll move to go back to regular session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, back in regular session. Next item on the agenda, item number 15, tax abatement. Were you going to cover this one, Lori, or did?
Brian wants to volunteer?
No.
No? Okay, back in March, I brought an abatement before the commission, and it was heard at the March 19th meeting. This involved some house and outbuildings that were demolished on the property June 7th of 2018, and the taxpayer is requesting abatement of the taxes payable from June 8th, basically, through the end of the year of 2018. The amount is $696.29. At that meeting, it was one commissioner was missing. It was a tie vote, and then it's my understanding it was heard again at a following meeting.
No,
No?
just the ones.
Just the ones?
You're right, it was on the agenda, but it was never,
It was delayed to the next meeting.
Okay, so it was delayed, and I believe Mr. Denherter is here to represent the taxpayer, if you have any questions for him, or do you have any questions for me?
Just so we're on the same page, is that over on Highway 50?
It is on Highway 50. The applicant owns 2 parcels there. There's a large parcel. The large parcel is the parcel that he's building a hog confinement building on. And then down in the middle, there's a little cutout, and that was where the house and the outbuildings were. And that's the parcel we're talking about, is this small little parcel.
There's a curve in the highway around it, correct?
I forgot to look at the highway.
And how many acres of the old house and the outbuildings were there?
It was small, and I don't remember the number of acres off the top of my head. I don't have that with me.
Not very big.
It wasn't very big.
Lori, we gave a tax abatement.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Back in April.
10 acres.
Same property for the next year as well? Is that the property we?
Yes,
we gave?
because-
So we gave that one an abatement going
well-
forward, or what it?
What happened was that the application here is for the 18 pay 19. Then our office also made the mistake of not getting those buildings removed for the 19 payable 20, and that's what we took care of at the spring boards. This is for the portion of the year 18 pay 19 that the buildings no longer existed. It's been the practice of the office to abate those taxes. I did look back through, I kept track of abatements that came through my office. Not all abatements come through my office, depending on the reason for abatement. And I looked back through the ones that I had on record back to 2012, and there were 17 applications of this sort made on residential properties and 17 abated.
Are they usually like derelict property or properties that are like caught on fire or something? Are they?
Some were caught on fire, some were demoed to make room for other construction. Some were just in total disrepair. Some were used by the fire department as test properties. Various reasons that they were either demolished or removed.
And that the taxes have already been paid for
No.
this, or have they have not?
They've been allocated. So we've already budgeted for these taxes to be coming in.
But if they're abated, they'll be taken off the tax.
Correct.
Is it true that the county then would be liable for 100% of these taxes? Because the school is going to get X amount, correct?
No, once you abate, it goes off the taxes. The county
Okay.
does not owe any on what we've abated.
Okay.
And it's sent to the state. I have to do a form
Okay.
at the end of the year. No, but the county is not liable for the taxes.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Denherter may have some comments on this.
Come on up, sir. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello again, Commissioners. Again, I'm Ross Denherter. For purposes of this issue, I'm acting as legal counsel for Mr. Schenk. And for purposes of this abatement request, looked at the state of the law on this, and of course, had good conversations and received good information from Ms. Martinek, from the Director of Equalization's office. But I do have with me proof that the structure has been destroyed, if you want to take a peek at it. Straight out of the statute, SDCL 10-18-2, the purpose is fairness. The function of property taxation and the ability to obtain an abatement is to make sure that people are being appropriately taxed on the structures and what's upon the property. And this is just a way to allocate fairness, because bear in mind, this structure is no longer there. A party shouldn't be taxed for the structure that's there, regardless of who they are. There's a barn nearby that is being taxed, and that's adding an exceptional amount of extra tax revenue to the county coffers by contrast. So doing what's fair and what's right, as Lori had indicated, in 17 cases where structures were removed during the middle of the year and requests were made for abatement, every time this commission has approved it since 2012. It doesn't matter who the individual is, and I understand that my client has not always done a great job of ingratiating himself before this board, but he's a citizen like anybody else, and this is just simply a matter of fairness. So on his behalf, I would ask that you guys do grant this for the sake of fairness, especially with an understanding that there's a great deal of more tax revenue coming from the structure that's right nearby.
Do you have that amount that's coming from the structure that's there now?
Lori might, I'm not sure.
The amount of...
From the new structure?
You're looking for the value of the new structure?
Yeah, he said that.
I don't have that with me. The amount of the abatement is $696.26.
I have that.
It's 29 cents.
Correct.
Okay. Could you get me the amount of the new structure, please?
Of the new structure?
Wait, some other time. but
Sure.
Email it to me, I'd appreciate
Yep.
that. Thank you.
Mhm. Oh, that's yours.
Yeah, that's my stuff here. Oh, thank you. So the other thing I'd like to remind you, this is only a pro rata portion. The structure was appropriately taxed to the time that it was just demolished. So the total taxes for the year just applicable to that structure was $1,221. So there's no request to get more than what is entitled here, just to take him through the portion of the year that it was demolished to finish out the year. Not a huge cost burden to the county to undo that $600, especially in light of the building that was just finished in this last month. And that's going to come into the county year after year. Thank you, guys.
I can see why Mr. Shake cleared it off if it's 10 acres. And he's got a center pivot there, I know that. And a few years, well, it's been quite a few years now, but there was land sold just a few miles from there, and that sold for about $18,000 an acre, so times 10, and irrigated ground, 350 bushels an acre, you know, that
Could be
you can
good.
make a lot of money off that. So, yeah, I can see why he bulldozed those nice trees down.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone care to speak on this from the audience? Now would be the time to do so. All right, back to the board.
I'll move approval of the abatement.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion. I guess I would say that we had that young lady come in here on February 5th, and we didn't abate her taxes, I guess, for that owner occupied. So, is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kettering,
Yes.
Close,
Yes.
Healy,
Yes.
Swenson,
No.
Clemish.
No. Motion pass. Next item on the agenda, item number 16, quarry plat. Did you want to present anything with this? Or, it's pretty self-explanatory. Is this they're swapping those two pieces of property for?
Right, due to extenuating circumstances, the current owner is swapping some land from the property. It's the old Quarry Restaurant. So he's taking land he owns on the east side and swapping it with the Foss family on the west side. There are two shaded areas on the plat, simply for access and cleaning up where they were just sharing property without having actual ownership. It's an equal swap. There's no issue with zoning. Lot sizes are fine. As I said, it's pretty straightforward.
The easements stay in place, if I remember right.
Yeah, easements, everything stay in place.
Went through was it unanimous at the zoning board? I can't remember. I know it was.
Yes, because we went right through these pretty quick, so yes.
Anybody from the audience want to speak on this plat? Now would be the time to do so. Going once, going twice. Any questions from the board?
Move approval of the quarry plat.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion pass. Next item on the agenda, item number 17, District 3 zoning contract extension. Joe, do you want to cover this?
Sure. So we came up to the end of another month. We've extended the contract with District 3 for the planning and zoning administrator position. I'd like to note to the public, though, we have been staffing that office roughly 3 days a week, 2.5 days a week. It's been taxing on District 3, so office hours will be more limited. There's other duties that they are responsible for, and so, you know, I apologize on behalf of the county to anybody that inconvenienced, but we still do not have full-time staff in that office. All I can say is we'll have to look for schedules that'll be posted, but we will be limited to, you know, 1 to 1.5 days a week going forward. And
We have extended a job offer, and it looks promising to get somebody in there.
Correct.
And so that should be more info forthcoming very soon.
So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. You know, again, we can leave messages, emails, or messages with other offices, but we'll do what we can to keep permits flowing. Appreciate District 3 in helping us as much as they have. And so currently the new contract is extended for 1 month.
I need a motion to approve that for another month.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion pass. Next item on the agenda, item number 18, minimum/no maintenance roads. Do you want to cover this one, Mike? believe on the last meeting, we talked about doing what we can to save tax dollars. And this was one thing that came up, so.
Well, going to minimum maintenance roads, I gave you guys a handout on the statutes. Going to minimum maintenance doesn't even say there has to be a resolution, but I think it'd be best to bring it in front of you guys. Going to a no maintenance road does need a resolution. And then if you look on the second page, it also says to go to a no maintenance road, it has to go through the approval of the State Transportation Commission. We do have a road that, one for sure, because then if you read on the first page, the no maintenance highway deal there, it says the movement of man-made obstruction. We do have a 1 mile stretch where there's a bridge. We took the plank off of the bridge and the road's been closed for probably close to 10 years. So a guy could remove that structure and it could be passable again.
Do you think this is an option that should be explored as an attempt to save some tax dollars? And this would only be organized, or I'm sorry, unorganized?
Unorganized.
So, okay. Rob, do you see any legal issues with, some of these?
No, Mike said it right. You guys would designate minimum maintenance. Minimum maintenance is just below full maintenance roads. And
Sure.
whatever you designate based on traffic and then whatever amount, and then no maintenance, the only thing you have in that is if there's a man-made structure, an obstruction that stops traffic, you take it up, but that's the only thing.
Okay.
You put a sign at the beginning, you put a sign at the end. That's it. It is determined. And so it'd be Mike who would bring those forward if there were roads in the county that can decrease maintenance,
Okay.
either the minimum or the no maintenance. And Mike, probably Mike, can come forward and say that they're saying it correctly. I don't know to do it. It does, for some reason, on the no maintenance, says you bring a resolution, it needs to be done by resolution, but no matter what, you're still making a motion and adopting, I'm sure, the resolution because it's no maintenance, and so you're designating, probably not necessarily a liability, but letting people know if they're driving on this road, you're driving at your own risk, and so you're providing that through a resolution. Minimum maintenance doesn't require it, but it's still your decision.
Does that have to be, well, obviously it has to be posted, but is it a, no maintenance and then another sign, travel at your own risk?
Right, if you read there it says posting notification of minimum maintenance road at 31-12-47. It says you'll have to have the minimum maintenance sign along with travel at your own risk, and that also applies for the no maintenance roads.
You can put that all on one sign. I've seen it all on one sign.
Right.
Okay.
Let's go back to
Save as a
this
sign.
road with the bridge. So it's currently closed. It's been closed for 10 years. For us to go to a no maintenance or minimum maintenance, we have to spend money to demolish the bridge.
We'd have to take it out with excavator, I guess. It wouldn't be much.
But are we maintaining any part of that road right now?
The south part we do probably once a year.
Would we have
Like
to?
we're gonna spend money to go no maintenance on that one.
Right.
Would we have to remove the
There-
whole bridge or just take the planks out?
The plank is gone. We
Could we leave the structure on each end? And
or we could leave the structure there and just put no maintenance.
what would you say, Rob? I mean,
I mean, it's like, so if the structure, a lot of people could still pass on it.
No, right now they cannot pass on it. The plank is gone. There's barricades at the both ends of the bridge right
I'd
now.
say leave it closed myself.
Because I know the farmers around there had concern that if a guy could make it a low water crossing, and well, if we would make it no maintenance, a guy could.
Okay, so there would be interest in this road being used as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I'm not saying we would have to do that now. It's something we could do down the road when we have time,
Okay.
there'd be no liability to the county on a no-maintenance road.
Liability, that's why it's posted and why it says at your own risk, except for the man-made structures. When we know about them, we must remove them.
Which the bridge would,
That include like
Dynamite,
culverts and things
dynamite.
too, if there's a culvert, I mean, would we have to?
guess we go target
remove a
shooting with some
culvert?
tannerite.
I wonder about like on a closed road, you know, your insurance isn't any good. Would there be an issue with a minimum maintenance road for, say somebody has an accident, two people run into each other, would there be something there?
You're at, I don't know.
You have to get a hold of the
If it was
insurance guy.
structurally done wrong, or maintenance wasn't done correctly, or you didn't follow how you should have done something, if you were negligent, you could have some issues, I would agree. But it's minimum maintenance, you know, the circumstances which would decrease your responsibility, decrease the liability issue, those kind of things. Sure. That could be something that could be.
This would be a good topic for the new road committee to tackle.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you for this information.
you know, and there are a few roads out there right now that are, they're pretty tough shape. The ditch is higher than the road, so.
Sure. Well, some of those are hit pretty hard by the flooding, and this might be the ideal time, you know, why put tens of thousands of dollars into them and then turn them into no maintenance 2 years from now.
I'd say any of them you bring to us, it's justification and at least some sort of feedback from the people
Right.
it's gonna affect. I'll
Well, and
take
it's
your
it's not
lead
that I
on
want
it,
to
so.
change 20 miles of road to no maintenance. There's a few out there that we could easily do away with,
Okay.
just to go to minimum, you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're gonna stay for the next one too, right? Next question, next item.
All right, next item on the agenda, item number 19, modification of 2019 road plan. We discussed this last meeting, and I think we know what the answer is. I, again, getting reports from people who are not wanting some of these roads ground up, and rightly so. I understand their position, but also, we all agreed, every one of us voted to put, you know, Stone Church Bridge as a priority, and we haven't put any funding in that bridge this year for replacement. Our plan was to have that replaced in 4 years, and we aren't putting our money toward that, so I'm throwing out the idea of I'd like to modify the road plan with grinding, where we still grind the 4 miles from Utica West, but the other areas, we don't grind that this year and put that money toward Stone Church Bridge replacement. 449 is still gravelled, and the other road in Odessa is not gravelled, but it needs to be gravelled. If we put that gravel on top of it and don't grind those 2 roads, put that money toward the Stone Church Bridge. So, and
I'd agree with you, Dan.
we all stood up here and said our goal was to get to Stone Church in 4 years, and we're not going to do that if we don't find some money and start putting it toward that. So,
Mike, do you have a rough estimate of the FEMA claims that the county has submitted, and what the guy said 75%? Is that
Right.
Is that realistic?
And I believe and Paul, sitting back there, can probably back me up on this. The 25% that FEMA doesn't cover, the state covers part of that, and the county's responsible for part of that?
Yeah.
We have not heard that figure yet.
Okay.
But there is a good chance that could be a portion.
A portion, so,
We just talking with the gentleman that was just here earlier, that with the, being we've had so many, we're gonna see a lot of mitigation money coming down to help with future projects, so there's a good chance that number could be 5% to 15%.
for the county.
For the county.
So we're looking at 5 to 15%, not the 25%.
But I'm guessing that, I'm hoping that the feds are going to make sure that we use that money on projects that were involved in disasters.
Right.
make some calls for us, Don. See what you can do.
So it probably doesn't open up Pandora's box on what we can do, but it does give us some options.
Right, because we took some money from projects.
Yeah,
We
we-
took money from project assuming that we weren't gonna get
Yep.
relief, and now that we are, then yeah, we may revisit some of those.
Hey, I'm concerned that, it was, a few months ago was a big deal, James River bridges, and we were gonna work on a plan to replace them, and this is my idea, and maybe it'll go through, maybe it won't, but we need to start allocating money for that process as well. So,
Do you have a motion for what
yeah.
change you want to make?
yeah, I guess I would move that we modify the 2019 road plan, and we grind the 4 miles west of Utica, and we do not grind the other 7 miles, and we put that money into Stone Church Replacement Bridge Fund.
So that's approximately
About 100 and,
$200,000.
what's 7 times what is it, 20,000 miles?
20, I was
Is it
thinking
15 or 16,000 for
Between
Louisa?
about 15 and a half.
So,
15 and a half, but plus gravel, right?
yeah, so.
Well, but we're,
Regardless, we're gonna grab it.
regardless,
We're
we
gonna
have to put the
we're
gravel,
gonna
so you
still,
cannot-
we're gonna still gravel them to make them safe to pass. And this is just for this year, we could come back and grind them next year if we get the FEMA money, or if we get a bunch of FEMA money, we could do that. But I feel we need to start, we promised the citizens we were gonna do something with Stone Church Bridge, and we all voted for it, and we haven't put up 1 penny toward that, and before
Well,
we
but
know.
to our defense, we haven't went through budgeting
No,
yet.
I know. But this is one way, so I do that. So that is my motion. And is there a second?
And I'll second your motion.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
I like the way you're thinking, and I know, I don't wanna grind up roads any more than the next guy, and I know it would be a cost savings this year. I see that. My concern is 449, and Mike said last time, and I had talked with him prior to, if we were to know that we were gonna keep gravel on that road without grinding up, we would have probably put a clay base down or done something different. And I have concerns with the gravel staying put.
Yeah,
Just being, sitting on top of asphalt
I
for another
understand.
year. So I guess,
And I think the 2019 road plan is great. I really do. I just don't see where we're able to put the money that we should be putting away to Stone Church Bridge any other way. So, is there any other further discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Dan,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Ely,
no.
Close.
No.
All right, motion passed. Next item on the agenda, item number 20, increase no-through truck fine from 500 to 1,000. This is something we discussed last meeting. The feedback I've heard from the community is that most of these trucks are not from Yankton County, they're from some other areas. So I guess what's the board's thought on increasing that?
Don brought up the dollar figure, 2,500, and I raised him to 3,000. Don and I usually don't agree on much.
There was a bidding war there for a little bit. So. Well, I think the feedback I heard is 25 might be a little too much if somebody makes a mistake, but.
The feedback I get from people is that you better make it big enough that they will stay off of it, and make them think twice before they do take a chance of running through it. We can't have a deputy sitting out there all the time just to enforce one law. They got other things to do. But,
Rob, you said that's just a resolution we could develop and just change the fee, because ours is at 500 now, and so it'd be, okay. Joe, Sherry, what are your thoughts?
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
What'd you
I
say,
know.
Jim?
Does
Said
anyone?
The sky's the limit.
Does
I-
anyone know how long that it's been at this $500 for? I mean, I'm sure quite a while.
I know at the 8-county meeting, there was other counties I talked with that they were they saw this on our agenda, they were curious how we're gonna enforce it, because they have problems enforcing it. And we're going to have problems enforcing it too, but.
We have problems enforcing it now.
Right, so, I mean, the enforcement is another issue, but I've got no problem increasing the
You
fine.
only have to catch one guy and fine him 3,000, and that message will spread real fast. If you catch a guy for 1,000, I might take a chance.
Yeah.
You guys haven't driven a truck and built roads like I have. I know truck drivers a little bit better than you do.
Sherry, did you have anything?
No, actually, I don't have any comments on this one.
Anybody from the audience care to make a comment on this? Come on up, sir.
Well, I just say, Mayor, this might Rob might be honest, there's some fines where a judge could say were excessive and abate, or whatever the word is, that we say they get $1,000 fine, and the judge says, well, that's, it's the fine's supposed to beat the crime. Whatever, the judge can say that, no, that's too high, and throw it out. Just a question.
There's a mechanism that allows for that, yeah.
I think this is an attempt to just keep our taxes low and keep our roads in as good a shape as possible. Last meeting, we had a lot of reports of, trucks coming from other counties using our roads and causing damage, and, we all have to pay for it. And if we could stop a few of those trucks, I think it would be good. So, anyone else from the audience? Back to the board. Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we make the fine $2,500, and if it's violated, it increases to double for the second offense.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
I was just thinking.
Oh, you were thinking,
I
okay.
was thinking it
Okay.
takes a while. Yeah, I can support that.
Is that something we could do?
Time limit on the second offense, probably. Or is
He
it
does it
over
the
your
next
life?
day.
All right.
You get a speeding ticket one day, and you get the speeding ticket the next day is doing a deal.
Rob, is that something we could, that seems really complicated to me.
I'm not sure if you can.
Yeah, we better research, I like where you're going with that, but I think
Well,
we
can I-
should.
Can I rephrase it then?
If you want to restate your
I'll
motion.
restate it that we make it just a simple $2,500 fine for if they're caught on there.
All right, I have a motion for a $2,500 fine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? I don't know, that's a lot. I feel that's a pretty high. I think maybe we could start out lower. Or would that be excessive, do you think, Rob, for? Yeah, so yeah, I feel that's excessive. Is there any other further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Erie,
Yes.
Kettering,
Yes.
Ely,
Yes.
Los,
No.
Clemish.
No. Motion pass. Next item on the agenda, item number 21, commission wages and toll bridges. Commissioner Swenson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Clemish. Just want to reiterate a few things. Everybody knows that it's been a horrible spring and winter. Everybody's suffering. Farmers are suffering, the mail carriers are suffering, the roads, the bridges are suffering, the wildlife, the cows. We've had more calves die this year than ever before. Cows look pretty good. The soil and the water, home foundations, and everybody's pocketbook is suffering. When I was in the military and when I was a manager of 2 different companies, I always led by example. I never let anybody do a job that I wouldn't do myself. And I believe that this commission needs to step up to the plate and show them that, in good faith, that we're trying as hard as we can too, because everybody else is suffering. We just got a 2.5% increase in wages. I'm not advocating for any other county employee to do this, just the county commissioners. All 5 of us take a 10% cut in wages, and to have it start, Patty, maybe September, Patty's gone, September 1st or whenever, October 1st, and take it out of our wages, and to have this money designated exclusively to the Fleeg Old Highway 50 bridge, where we did have some money in there, and I think we've got $150,000 in the Fleeg Bridge Fund, don't we? Give or take?
It's $100,000.
Yeah, and of course, that $1 million that was given to the city of Yankton when West City Limits Road was closed, we could sure use that right now. So my motion is that 10% wage taken out of all 5 commissioners' paychecks, put into the Fleeg East Highway 50 Bridge Fund, and if anybody else wants to contribute, ag business, a banker, a rich doctor, a lawyer, anybody else can contribute too. But right now, I believe that we need to set an example and show the people that we mean business to get these bridges replaced. And like I said, the Stone Creek Bridge is first, and maybe probably the East Highway 50 Fleeg will be next, because that's on about the same page as far as ratings. So my motion is just what I stated, to take 10% out of the commissioner's wages, put it into the Fleeg Bridge Fund.
Fleegs are
September 1st, is that,
Fleegs are Stone
reasonable
Church.
date, Patty?
Pardon me?
If this passes of September 1st, would that be enough time to get it implemented in the wages, or do you want like October 1st?
No, that's fine, because we haven't even started budget yet.
Yeah,
so.
okay, all right. So that's my motion.
I have a motion, is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Did you want to talk about your toll bridge, Gary? Or did you want to, did you have another motion?
I'm going to tell you what, if you 4 won't do it, I want 10% out of my check taken out every month, and I want it put into the Fleeg Bridge Fund. You 4 don't have to. If you need the money that bad, I'm going to do it. I'm on a fixed income, but I don't care. I grew up in this county. I'm born and raised here. My grandfather came to South Dakota in 1897. We need those bridges, and we need money in there. So you take 10% out of my check, put it in that Fleeg Bridge Fund.
Gary, maybe a better, when we meet on Thursday for budgeting, we could bring that up. That might be a good time to do it for the next year or something.
Are you denying me the?
No, I'm just saying that might be easier if we
Because I think it needs
budget
to be
for
out to
that.
the public to see that D4 don't want to do it.
I'd have to check with the state auditor to see if that's possible, or
Okay.
how we can do it.
That'd be good.
Did you want to discuss toll bridges here?
Yeah, I've handed out some of these, and Patty, could you hand some of this out for me? Don't give them my refrigerator close, but those are 5 different pieces of information. So you need all 5 of them. And please don't throw them away. I spent $77 and some cents to get them copied, so it didn't cost the county anything. And I gave out some. I gave them to the press already. I gave them to the commissioners. I introduced this idea back in 2017, but it didn't gain much traction. If you read on this one, where it says County Commissioner, Yankton County Commissioner hopes to bridge funding gap. KSFY TV came down here. Kelly Smith came down here from KSFY, and the other commissioners didn't know about it, so it was kind of a surprise. This was the top news story on KSFY by Brian Allen that night. And he's still waiting on anything else. So I just want to introduce it again as a plan B if this FEMA thing doesn't work out. I've thought about it. I've got a lot of input from other people. A lot of people said, well, I'm not going to pay a toll. I'll drive around. I'm not paying a toll. Okay, my idea, and some of the other people had said, Anybody that's got a 7-county license plate on, they don't pay a toll. They go through for free. We're gonna target big, heavy trucks that come from out of state with 18 wheels or 36 or 48 double, triple trailers. So that's the people we need to target. They're not paying anything here. Like I said, all the input that you want to give me, I'm very welcome to take it. And I just want to put this out so that if some of the other stuff falls through, or I've got people that have already asked me if they could be the toll takers. Now, I've been to the East Coast, and I've got information here from prices of tolls. I'd say over half of the people operate these manually. There's a few automated ones, but they man them. The Decatur Bridge down here by Ottawa just came off of the toll. It's been there since like 1952. The Mormon Trail Bridge by Omaha started in, I think, 1956, and that finally came off, I think, in 79. It's all stated in this information packet I've been giving you. And of course, this bridge out here, 1929, I think it was, it collected a toll till 1953. My dad said the big thing was free in 53. I think the last toll that he paid was 25 cents, and that was only one way. And that's how that bridge right here got paid for. So everybody's talking about raising your taxes, and that didn't go through for the wheel tax twice. And everybody wants to spend more money. We want more software. We want to spend. I'm trying to generate some income here because this ain't Christmas, County Commission, and you guys ain't Santa Claus.
Thank you, Gary. Next item on the agenda, item number 22, 2020 budget discussion. Just so everybody knows, on Thursday, starting at, was it 9, on the 21st, we're going to go through our budget line by line. It's going to be a whole day event. I think
You're bringing like breakfast pizza and donuts?
I can. So
You said 9 o'clock, right?
yeah,
it
I'll
will
have
be
to ask
filmed.
Patty. And I specifically asked for
Recorded.
filmed, right? All right.
So if you
it's
can't
gonna
make
be
it, you can
filmed.
watch it.
So if you can't make it, you can watch for 7 hours. It'll be amazing. Budget meeting is 09 on the 21st, or is it 9:15? I can't remember.
9:15.
Okay. 9:15, it begins on Thursday, the 21st, and you're all invited. Does anyone else have anything on the 2020 budget discussion?
No.
All right. Anybody from the audience? Okay. Moving on. Next item on the agenda, item number 23, Yankton County Road Task Force applications.
Pick who you want. Do you guys want to, you have a sheet, you want to pick who you want?
Yeah. So we got a list. I'm really impressed how many people applied. We have 18 names, and there are others that showed an interest in it, and every one of these applicants would be, the county would be very lucky to have them. So our difficult decision is choosing.
So I guess when I look through this list, and I think of it about a task force that has to cover all the roads of the county, I think our goal when we choose folks to be on this is to pick people from different sections of the county, and to also try to get maybe a couple board members of current organized townships, a couple members of unorganized townships, so we have kind of a balance. And I know when we made the motion, we wanted 2 east and 2 west and 1 from the city. We didn't get anybody apply from the city, so I would suggest we reassign that to the lake area, because that's a concentrated area of folks. It's like a little city that doesn't really have a name, if you can say that. So I don't know if you're looking for recommendations. I can certainly share the list of folks that I have chosen and why, or if you just want to do everything completely anonymous.
Do we want to adhere to the 2 east, 2 west, and if so, should we run through quick and say who lives where?
Okay, I'll share those with you.
Well, I guess before you do that, you know, we have 18 people are hugely qualified, and I think, you know, we should strive to get people from all over the county, but I think everybody should just pick their top 5 and, you know, as opposed to, you know, here are your 2 choices that you can either pick this person or this person because we have to have somebody from this area. I think it's best if we just pick our top 5 and do it that way. How I feel, if somebody else has a different feeling, that's fine.
So number 1, Bob Chop resides in Utica Township. He is a township member, board member. Jay Cutts resides in Vollen Township. Roger Fahrenholtz, forgive me if I didn't say that right, is out in Ziskoff South, unorganized. Bob Gleich, why, he must not have been on my list.
He just brought in today.
Oh, okay,
Didn't it close Friday?
all right.
14th.
So is that you back there, Bob?
I didn't know if you wanted to,
Okay.
would still accept them.
Where do you live, Bob?
I'm in Zisco South. right
Ziskoff
off
South?
31st Avenue.
Okay, so Bob's in Ziskoff South. I'll make a note of that. Sorry about that. Dan Grant, I have him in Vollen. Doug Heavley, I have in Ziskoff South. Sherry Hoffman is in the city of Utica, which is in Utica Township. Victoria Job actually resides in Clay County. She works here in Yankton. Kevin Kirshenman, Jamesville Township. He is a board member of the organized township there. Tyler Larson resides in the city of Mission Hill. Bob Linkstead, Walshtown. He is a board member for the organized township. Don McDonald, I have in Utica South. Tim McManus, I have in Marindal. Kent Metler, Odessa, unorganized area. Rocky Schultz, I have Mission Hill. And Kirsten Sheeta?
I'm not gonna help you with
You're not going to help me with that one? And I didn't have that name on my list either.
That was probably new. There was a couple that I
Okay.
got an email from one on Friday.
Okay.
But I was not here on Friday.
And so sorry, I don't know.
She lives, I believe, in Yankton.
In Yankton, okay. I didn't have her on my packet list when Jackie Vaith is from Odessa, unorganized, and then Sandy Williams is Marindal. So if that guides you in your choices.
You want 5?
We're doing 5.
Circle your 5 and hand them to the auditor, please.
Did you use your toes to count? So I guess I had several questions on kind of the format, and, well, I'm not going to ask Don to chime in because he's still
And how
writing.
long do you figure this task force is going to be set up? Is it a
Well,
6 months, 3 months?
I
2
looked
months?
back at the 2 task force that I have been involved in. The first one was the first Road and Bridge Task Force that Don was on as well, and then the second one was the Township Task Force. That Township one, we met about every 2 weeks, and we had maybe 4 main meetings, and then toward the end, when we were preparing the report, we had 1 or 2 other just to get together and finalize the report. So I have been trying to convey, we'll probably meet every 2 weeks, hit it hard, and I don't want to drag this out. So I'm looking for no more over 2 months.
What's the ultimate goal of the task force?
I envision us first looking at the 2015 transportation report that was done by, I think it was SRI Consulting or SRF or whatever it was, because they had already identified corridors. And I think that we need to start there. because the work's already been done there. They do have some dollar estimates associated. And then to pick something, whether we decide to pick 1 or 2 north-south roads on either side of the county and 1 or 2 east-west roads, whatever that is. But I think we need to pick the roads that we want to ensure we always chip seal, we always crack seal. And then the other roads will get the overflow dollars. And bridges should probably be thrown in here as well, because there are bridges on those roads that will take money. And that was all outlined in that report.
I'm not trying to rush you guys, but whenever you're ready, you can turn it on.
So, but we tend to get accused of not following through on things.
I was just gonna bring that up. 'Cause
And, you know, and the accusations right around every time there's an election, there's a different focus and things, and we certainly can't guarantee the next elections, we'll all still be sitting here. But I think once a decision is made, and because no decision was ever made to adopt any of those things.
Right.
It was a report. And to me, it was always, well, we just don't have the money to do that.
Is the intent to identify these corridors through this task force and present to the commission and us take action on that?
Yes, I would envision that, yes.
We talked about also meeting with the community and identifying the logic behind it so that everybody has a good understanding of what we're doing.
Yep, and all of these folks on this list, I highly encourage to come to the meetings, because the Township Task Force, we ran a pretty open meeting. We discussed for a while, and if someone raised their hand, we would allow them to input. It was very
Casual.
easy toned, if you will. Nobody got too excited, and I think that was very good for the public to be able to participate.
Sherry, that 2015 plan, did we end up posting that on our website?
It is posted on the
And I
website.
would encourage
It's like
people, yeah.
150 pages long. It's a 12 meg file if you want to download it. It's got option A, B, and C, and all the numbers to go along with it.
Very detailed, well-written plan.
Yep, and I think some of the distraction with the report is it included bike trails and things, and folks were like, well, why are we paying for bike trails? But sometimes when you get federal dollars, you have to study those things too, because that report costs the county, I think, $20,000, and the rest of it was picked up by the state or the feds, because it was like a $100,000 report. So we might as well use it.
All right, go ahead.
Bob Chop, 4. Bob Blake, Roger,
Barinholtz?
3. Daniel Grant, 3. Tim McManus, 4. Kent Metler, 4.
All right, guess we don't need a motion to,
I don't think so. Just
to adopt those, to approve the names
for
for the task force?
You don't need a motion.
Okay, those are individuals, so thank you, everybody who applied.
I gotta highlight those.
Next item, did you have anything else on
So-
the Yankton County Road Task Force?
1 second. You want me to read them again? So Bob, Roger, Bob, Tim, and Kim. And then Don and myself.
Okay. Any,
Daniel.
Oh, Daniel, I highlighted the wrong one. Yep, there we go. See,
Any-
then I won't have 2 Bobs.
any other comments on that?
Thank you.
All right,
No,
and then
thank you.
the schedule for that will be posted soon, I assume?
Yes, Don, unless you want to, I'll volunteer to get in touch with all these kind folks. And we'll figure out a first meeting, and we will certainly, and then I envision at the first meeting, we will set dates for all the other meetings and then get those published.
Great, excellent.
Is that all right, Don?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, all right. Next item on the agenda, item number 24, discussion on raising fees. Last night at the zoning and planning, we did have, we discussed accessory structures, and we also discussed our fees. I guess what precipitated this was the 8-county meeting. We talked to county commissioners from the other counties and told them what our fees are, and we're very, very low. For those of you who don't know, we have not raised any of our permit fees since 2004. And so it's probably about time. I should have had this moved up sooner, and again, this is just a discussion, but since we are adopting new technology for our conditional use permits, variances, and those types of things, I really think these permit fees should pay for that. And I think it'd be, something that we need to look at. So I think we all have a copy of this. Don, you got a copy of that? So talking to other counties, most of the other counties I talked to are around $250 or so, plus or minus. The board, the zoning and planning board, we didn't take a vote on it, but most of them felt $300 or up is what we should be looking at for some of those. You look at our expense for a zoning and planning meeting, to record the meeting is $150. To record a Board of Adjustment meeting, it's, I think, $250. So we have a lot of costs in the meetings, and I think it's maybe time to look at raising some of the fees.
So is this something the planning commission should research and give a recommendation, or are you looking for us to research this?
How do we want to go about proceeding? We just had it on here to discuss it, and I think this would fit nicely if we're updating our software. And where do we want to go? Are we happy where we're at? Do we want to just raise for conditional use permits and variances of those? Do we also want to look at maybe our permit fees? Where does the board, I guess, want to go? We could certainly task the planning commission with giving us a recommendation, or we could do that ourselves. My research.
Do it.
Okay.
My research is, and talking to the guys on other counties is, they're all at 250 and they think they're low for some of these.
Dan, could we have somebody on staff here give 6 surrounding counties or 5
Yeah.
counties or something?
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
Kind of use that as a basis.
Does everybody want to do that?
Yeah, I think that's fine to get some information. I'd like to just say that, I'm not saying that we can't raise fees, but to me, the reasoning would more so just be inflation and wages and some of that stuff. I mean, I'd like to just reiterate the software I truly think is a cost saver. To the
Yeah, I
county.
believe so as well, yeah.
I think just our neighbors across the border to the south, I think their vehicles are $300, $400, $500 for an average vehicle, nothing special.
Yeah.
We're way low.
Yeah. And some of the comments from the planning board where our fees are so low is people might, well, I'm just going to try for this variance and see what happens because it's only $100. And the cost of running through, say a variance is well in excess of that. If
Right.
you look at the time the office is putting in, the research, the recordings, the times we have the meeting, and yeah, so.
I think we can all probably agree that post-construction late fee needs to be increased.
So, Patty, could we have maybe one of your people look at some of the surrounding counties and get us, and maybe similar sized counties, Brookings, Brown County, and give us an estimate?
I'll get there close to our size.
Okay, and we'll revisit this next meeting? Does that sound good with everybody?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. All right, next item on the agenda, item 25, commission updates to, Don or Gary, do you have anything? Updates? Did you have anything?
Can I
Go ahead.
go back 1 second?
Sure.
On the fees, we don't have drainage fees on here. Is that just a regular, conditional use? Or how does, there's
Drainage.
a schedule for that and it's in the ordinance, isn't it?
Well, drainage is limited by state law.
Okay,
We can only charge so much by state law.
okay. So
We
it's
should
not gonna
probably have,
apply.
all fees should probably be in one location. I guess I would agree with that, even if we maybe can't.
Because we've got, Mike said tonight, we have one highway fee for something, it was 75 for something, so.
And these,
Um,
some of these.
What are we charging? Register of deeds fees are really set by state statute.
We have some of these like right-of-way and entrance applications. If we're doing some of this paperwork, that's maybe something we can look at. Do we want to charge a fee? Do we not want to?
Yeah, I would say anything that we're looking to put on our new permit software.
I found too that lately that, and there was a claim, that we do have to pay sales tax, that we charge for fees. Some
Really?
fees.
Ah,
I
interesting.
didn't know that, so we had to send a check.
City and state? Or just
Just
state?
like our copies,
Mhm.
we have to, that we charge for, we make a copy for an individual, we have to send in to the State Department of Revenue for sales tax.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's even feasible or worth the effort, but it probably would be nice if we could, at the end of the year, report how much additional funds that brought in and what it may have went for.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I would agree. Okay. Anything else that was back on raising
No,
fees?
sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
Commissioner Upley, did Joe or Sherry, did you have anything? We attended, some of us attended the 8-county meeting. When was it? Last Wednesday. It was really good to just meet some of the other commissioners, and everybody's dealing with the same things that we are. Not enough money, too many roads, how do we fix them? It was nice to discuss that with those. One of the main topics was the 211 system. Other counties haven't adopted. We have already, and we were able to, tell how that helped us, especially in our flooding. Anything else I missed? on the-
And there was a pretty lengthy discussion on the new GoEd CAFO incentive program. I guess I don't know what they're calling it, but there was a lot of frustration with some of the counties with how it was rolled out. Some of them feel they're being left behind because they don't have CUP systems in place. So there was pretty lengthy discussion, and that might spur some changes to it. Maybe they can get in somewhere too. GoEd would take a little bit different, and maybe I shouldn't say just GoEd, it's more the Department of Ag under GoEd would take a little bit different view of that, so some of those counties can benefit from that as well. So I have taken it upon myself to contact all the department heads here to ask them for what they want changed in the employee handbook, just as I did it, because I want to see how big the monumental task is going to be, whether we do it in-house, pay a consultant, or have District 3 do it. So it kind of gives us an idea where we're at. Some of the folks have already gotten back to me on that, so that's in the works behind the scenes.
All right.
Oh, yeah, Don, we're in Lesterville next Thursday, right? 7 p.m. at the Fire Hall. Is that the 27th?
27th.
27th. So everyone's welcome to come out and share your thoughts. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, public comment. Let's see who signed up for public comment.
None.
No? Anybody care to make a public comment? Now would be the time. Come on up, sir. State your name for the record and give you 3 minutes. Welcome.
Jeff Goodall, Yankton. Just on these fines, the fees, that you want to do. You take, for instance, like when they built that house and didn't pay any taxes for 4 years. $100 fine. That is ridiculous. We need to get that up to like 1,000. Look at how many tax dollars that went by. I've served on the Planning and Zoning Board. I've served on other boards for the county. I served on the Lewis and Clark Corridor, with the signs and everything else, Let's get real, people. These violations, $100 fine. That needs to get up to like $500, $1,000 fine for, late, with the years, that have passed. Let's get it in and put some teeth into it and get this thing resolved. Look at how many tax dollars that we're losing. that we could use to put forward to other things. Thank you.
Anyone else care to make a public comment? Now would be the time to do so. Welcome, state your name for the record, give you 3 minutes.
Okay, Patty Gramco. With the city asking for money for the center, I just am wondering how many people drive from the county to go into the center to eat lunch or attend any activities?
A lot.
Really?
Yes, like people drive from Menno and Scotland, it's amazing how far people come to go there.
And
You
there's a ton of rural people who move.
Yes.
Move to live in apartments in town that go every day. That's so.
You should go there sometime, go there. You're too young, but you should go. It is-
You know, I really hate to drive.
You only gotta be 18.
Anyway,
I'm a member of the club.
on the same note here, the library, you know, they charge what, $5 for a library card?
I don't believe they do.
Yeah,
For the county. For the county, they do, but the city gets it free. They need to either raise their fees or, you know, I have a little bit of a hard time with some of these requests. Anyway, about the roads, I think that Utica Road to Joe's Substation, it's a disaster and something needs to be done with it. But on the other hand, you have the Tabor Road, and that, Mike isn't here now, but he told me himself that has a better base. Make it passable, but don't put too much money into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to make a public comment? Now would be come on up, sir. State your name for the record, and I'll give you 3
Lou
minutes.
Johnson, Volland. John Kettering, I am here. I was told this evening at the Ag Gala that you bought a ticket knowing full well you were not going to be there. I salute you, sir.
Somebody lied to you. I did not.
Pardon?
Somebody lied to you. I did not buy a ticket.
You
Nobody
did
asked.
not? Okay, then I'm just as mad at you for not supporting Ag.
Nobody asked me, or I would have.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that we had several good events on the same time, but I think we all knew when we took this job, our place of duty on Tuesday nights, the first and third Tuesday is here, and that doesn't always work out. So, anyone else care to make a public comment? Now would be the time to do so. Going once, going twice.
To adjourn.
Wait,
Items for next meeting.
I need to
Don's
find out
ready.
how many will be going to the June 25th STEP meeting. I District 3, so to put in for the forum.
Sure.
Yeah, I would put in.
And then who will be going to July 17th to the fire station number 2 for the,
Maybe just announce them as a quorum
Where's the STIP
event,
meeting?
possible quorum event for both of those.
Oh, yeah, I gotta go to that. I'll be at the STIP meeting for sure. The 25th.
I'm planning on attending. Can we do that?
yep, I'll just put both of them in.
Do we have any items we want to talk about for the next meeting? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, further discussion.
Missed out.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody.